Hey, hey, welcome to the stream. I was apparently 9 seconds late trying to start stream as that said 6 days. That was a poor show. Guys, it's 6 days till the patch. And there's been consistent news like every day about the same sort of time, especially over weekends. So I'm expecting we might get something tonight. It might be like a mechanics recap. It might be like Delhi mechanic recap or something, but I think it'll come at 10 o'clock, the same as the martial artist did last night. So I figured, well, I don't do anything. I'll sit, have a couple of beers. I'm just going to be F5ing this site. We might as well F5 it together. Talk about whatever comes up. Maybe rewatch the Martial Artist Ascendancy Showcase. I'm very excited by that. And maybe read a bit more of the patch notes. We didn't get very far through those yesterday. Mostly on account of all the beer. I don't think we're going to get very far through them tonight either. But we'll see. We'll see. Let's take these things slowly. It's not like we've got... It's not like I've got anything. You guys might. But yeah, let's have another quick look at this.
The dreamer showed me a path. But through discipline and training,
can you preload it?
I have
normally on
my
the Friday.
own.
Normally next Friday. Preloads normally come available about
In Return of the Ancients, we're adding the third Ascendancy class for the Monk, the Martial Artist. The Martial Artist took his training into his own hands and has spent decades mastering his proficiency of hollow techniques, building his body into the ultimate weapon. The Monk may still walk the Dreamer's path, but the Martial Artist redefines how, mostly by punching things very hard. Let's take a look at what he has to offer, starting with his exclusive skills. Hollow Focus rings a death knell for your foes. Ethereal bells constantly appear around you, and hitting them causes them...
I'm going to guess you've got a reasonably slow connection. You're going martial artist, are you? Give me your leveling gear. Hi, Gondi.
These bells can always be killed, and are always
of course, go martial artist.
Using them with Killing Palm and Staggering Palm.
This is bait. This thing on your back, I think, is bait. Look at the size of the explosion. That's it. It's like it's zenith. It's like a 2-meter explosion. Shit. The back bell is bait. I'm sure it's bait.
These bells are also always critically hit. Why does that last bit matter? Well,
I think this whole line, I've been thinking about it all day. Well, I haven't been playing Conquest of Elysium all day and bringing Cthulhu to the world to eat all of the other people. It's not important. I think this is bait. I think it is. The reason being is, I don't think it's bait early on. I think this might be good for leveling because these things are going to generate, this first one here is going to generate you a good number of power charges and anything you want to do from stun and things like that. But one, they're not going to be there when you need them. They're going to appear behind you and stuff and take your character into places you don't want to be because you're going to snap target to them. And then this next one, which I think
thrives on critical hits.
I think he shows it in a second.
The final.
Yeah. So. Yeah. That's not good. It has a cooldown time of 0.5 seconds. That's not good. That's bait. This whole thing is bait. I think. I'll try it out, but I don't think it's actually very good. I think it's going to be very good.
Final step for the bell-centric part of the martial artist
is
strapping a bell to your back, which will ring out whenever you critically hit an enemy, delivering damage around you. Both of these bell skills
you can see it, man. Like, you can see
also quite good at stunning, which will come in handy later.
I'm trying to get the, you can see how tiny the little shockwaves are that are coming off the character. They're diddy.
If you prefer keeping your distance from the fray, Hollow Form lets your astral projections do the dirty work for you. While channeling, you constantly spawn clones of yourself that attack with skills of your choice.
For sure. Hollow Form as well, I think, is bait. It's probably really good. You can probably use it to do some boss one-shot builds, which they show kind of later. You scale the shit out of that, and all of a sudden you've got like 12 clones of yourself doing. Whirling Assault, that could be really good for a boss one-shot, but we're making a character that can just smash through all content.
You can also spend power charges to spawn triple the clones. For maximum...
I mean, like, being able to spawn that many clones is clearly going to be able to just delete shit.
Damage and maximum ruckus.
But that's not. Later on they do.
And for the three of you who are thinking, but what about shapeshifting? Enjoy your Meditating Wolf.
Meditating Wolf is kind of cute.
Of course, the martial artist has plenty to offer besides new skills, such as taking...
I actually think I'm going to be going Way of the Mountain, the combo point generators here, and then Way of the Stone Fist. I'm not going to take any of the shit to do with bells or fucking ghost bells or being a ghost rider or having a burning skull for a head. Like, all of that can fuck off. I don't remember what this one is, but I don't want it. I probably do want it. And I think that's going to be the build. And it's going to look kind of like the Invoker in how you take it. Like, Way of the Mountain is going to make you hit really hard and give you massive DR. Way of the Stone Fist, there's going to be some gloves that do some fucking insane shit. We know that. The combo point generator. So the first one, with culmination, will mean that every time you cast the skill that you're using combo, and you can have multiple skills using combo, you will take 2 seconds off your recharge timer. So you basically be able to force restart your shield recharge whenever you want, just by using a skill in combat. So your shield will always be coming back. And then the other one, it gives you the ability to retain combo when you switch weapons. So you'd be able to specialize like your bell with all of the area nodes and stuff, and when you put the bell down, have like a fucking huge, like, screen wide clearing bell. Yeah, and maybe even do some other weapons, maybe even some other switches, right? It's like switch off of Hollow Palm or something, and then something with a quarter staff that I haven't thought of yet for bell placement. And that's going to lead to some like really interesting, diverse ways to build, which I think will end up outscaling these other things. I think the ghost bells might be good, like, for really early game or going through campaign when you need those sorts of resources. But once you've solved those problems later on, I think the end game build, or the mid to end game build, is going to be Way of the Mountain, Way of the Stone Fist, and the combo generators. It's going to make for some really fucking interesting builds. And I think this node here,
pride in his Ezomite training by tattooing runes into his flesh. Runic Meridians gives you 5 extra rune sockets to play with.
Something you'd want to do.
Perfect for all the new runes you can find in the Runes of Elder League. If you want to focus on chaining together attacks,
so when you gain an additional combo. There's also combo nodes on the tree and surpassing combo chance skill gems that I would always take. I just wouldn't take those anymore, right? You wouldn't need to, so that's going to open up more damaging support gems on skills like Ice Strike, Tempest Flurry, Whirling Assault, whatever it was you were using for combo. For me, it was Whirling Assault, probably still will be. But it's that minus 0.2 seconds to current energy shield recharge delay per combo expended when using skills. With Culmination, you're going up to Culmination 2, you're going up to 10 combo. So that's 2 seconds.
Martial Adept and Martial
Master, so the skills can build and retain combo regardless of weapon set. That's going to allow you to specialize your abilities really, really well, which is really cool. And then gain combo from all attack hits. So that includes the things that would normally be spending your combo. So you'll put the bell down, and every time the bell goes off, you'll generate combo from its shockwave. They show that later on. So you would be generating combo at such a rate that you are constantly just bang, 2 seconds off my recharge time, bang, 2 seconds off my recharge time. So you'd be constantly turning your shield back on. So this should really work quite well with like a hybrid EV. If you can get enough hybrid EV ES, and if you can get enough ES, then you could go CI with this, I think. Yeah, you could go CI with this. It depends what they do when you've got Way of the Stone Fist. Stat stacking might be a thing. A stat stacking Astramentis Breach Ring with attributes might be the play, depending on what those gloves do. Might be. But I'd just be going, the build I've got thinking about is using pretty generic stuff. It's not really relying, it's opening up without needing any uniques. Unless there's some gloves that really do some fun stuff. I'm not going to know that for the first 3 days anyway.
Master are tailor-made for you, generating massive amounts of combo to spend on things like these, and protecting you while you do it. Remember how I mentioned being good at stunning might come in handy? Way of the Mountain covers you in a stony carapace when you immobilize enemies.
That's what I think.
The stacks are easy come, easy...
When I put that video out about how good face breakers were going to be with martial artist, I got called bait. I got dragged by people in the comments. It got dislike bombed from people saying, it's not going to work with unique gloves. And I was like, then what have they spent the last patch fucking doing? What have they been doing? Of course it's going to fucking work with the unique gloves. Try said something similar, and his comments were just the same. I went looking through his comments. They were just the same as mine. I was like, what? Come on, camera. Ruined your idea. It hasn't ruined mine. I'm going to have to put mine out in theory. Not going to work. They were vague. They're not going to work with... They were... Hey, Baf skills, hey, Stevie John.
Go and provide massive benefits, causing your attacks to deal a lot more damage and reducing the damage you take from smaller hits to a tickle. Last, but certainly not least, let's put on some nice normal gloves and... Wait, what the heck are these? Way of the Stonefist...
One thing I think... So, that's...
Gloves and... Last, but certainly not...
Right, there's 4. Is there 4? No, I think there are 6 mods on that. That must be a combi life percentage evasion rating and a tier 1 evasion rating or something.
Least. Let's put on some nice normal gloves and... Wait.
That has... I think that has become 6 individual lines. I don't think any of those are combi lines. I don't know, but... Actually, the max cold resistance... Oh, no, that might be 5 lines. Might be 5 lines. Less damage when taken on low life is probably the replacement of the life. 30% of damage is extra fizz is the fizz line. Cooldown recovery instead of intelligence? Oh.
What the heck are these?
Gondi, yeah.
Way of the Stone.
No, it's okay, Stevie. It's all right. Like, I understand people. I don't mind engaging with people in the comments that are like, "This isn't going to work with unique gloves." Anyway, I get it. They are intentionally vague. Although I will say, some people were saying that it said here that it said prefix and suffix modifiers are transformed into more powerful related modifiers. And if it did say that here, then I would understand why people thought it wouldn't work on uniques. But it does say their explicit modifiers are transformed.
Stonefist transforms any gloves you equip into fists of stone until you take them off. These gloves grant truckloads of evasion and energy shield, but more importantly, they transform the explicit modifiers on the gloves you equip, and yes, it works on everything. This...
Depone Yoshi's to get him to try and do that one. These are the ones that I thought... Yeah, they're the ones, aren't they? Where it goes from +2 melee skills.
This...
So it looks like strength goes to area of effect. +1 melee skills then gives you a bunch of other stuff?
On everything. This...
Also got armor mana, which is probably combi line. 10% chance to gain arcane surge. I think that's become 10% chance to become a power charge. So it's working on the... It works on the... That was an abyss line. I think the abyss line has changed to... I don't know, I guess the 10% quality of all skills might be the abyss line there. And the melee skills has also gained the power charge on hit. And then the attack damage on while on low mana is from the mana, maybe? I don't know where the armor's gone. Where's the armor gone? Oh, it's become another one of these. There's 2 lines. I'm fucking stupid. Also, why is that? Why is this character level 120? Plus 2 evasion rating per player level, plus 3 evasion rating per player level, 600. Plus 1, 240. So that's 120. Yeah. Yeah. Quality. Yeah, quality is affecting them. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, there's 2 lines. There's 2 lines. That's where the armor's gone. And the reason it's 20% more is because there's 20% quality and I'm a big dum-dum. Yes.
That.
Whoops. Getting hollow palm technique's cool. There's the immobilization, a bit of immobilization stuff as well. That's going to make freeze builds really good. Freeze or stun builds. Where the mountain looks very good, by the way.
And yep, even these.
Percentage increases.
Needless to say.
So I think the big ones, unfortunately, my fat head's in the way. So 1 second. The sign Accio, which are very, very good. Where the mountain, it's a passing chance to gain mountain's teaching per enemy power. Good to keep up the mountain's teachings, like max stacks all the time. No, it's based on power level. It's your power level, your player level, not the level on the gloves. It is. But these are going to be great, I would imagine, for a stun build, freeze build, which obviously gives you massive amounts of defensive layer as well, with the enemies not being able to do anything. So I imagine sign Accio Stein. Accio Thunderbolt, whatever it was, Firebolt. That was it. Those would be good. Thunder Fists, kind of interested to see what Gelid Palm does. I mean, it's kind of... We were talking about this in chat earlier today. The guild. And I'm pretty sure... I'll turn my camera back on. I'm pretty sure it's just going to do like a little Nova from the target. It'll do like an Ice Nova from whatever you target. And it will just be... I mean, you can kind of see it, right? There's like a picture of a bright thing with like a circle around it. And Gelid literally means a cold... a frigid, cold area. It's literally what the word means. So I'm pretty sure it's just going to do that. Then you've got these high defense ones. This one seems weird. Sacrifice max life to gain half that much runic ward when you attack. That just seems brutal. Don't know. I think there might be some stacking builds, actually. I think there might be. Strength stacking more likely than dex stacking, but maybe. Maybe both. Hey, I think it. 5% of damage taken recouped as life, mana, and energy shield. Chance to poison is calculated from your base chance to inflict bleeding instead. What? 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 16% increased quantity of gold dropped by saying, wait, what are these mods? Flicker never left. Flicker's never left. Flicker's always been a one-shot. Hoa looks fine. I think Hoa's like back here, isn't it? It looks like it doesn't look that interesting, to be honest. I'll be honest. Hoa didn't. The next one,
and yep, yeah. Even these.
I mean, it makes sense when you look at how this class works. It makes sense that it switches the lightning to cold damage because you're more likely to be using freeze or stun because of Way of the Mountain. The percent increased dex and intelligence is fine, but this was one of your big sources. Well, it was one of your sources of flat, so it's still going to be fine, right? If you've got other stat stacking stuff. I mean, it does kind of look like they're doing half a stat stacking build here. And I think the most important thing. So one thing I did notice. Let's just jump back to here. Does anyone remember that gear? I remember that gear. I remember playing a long time in gear that looked like that. That's Pillar of the Cage Gods. That's Regalia, yeah. Yeah. So that's the stat stack. He's not got on Hoa. But yeah, that's the 0.1 stat stack right there. There it is. Well, mostly. So and they know what they did. Jonathan sat on that sofa and went, forget everything you know. They know what they did to stat stacking, and then they know what everyone was using. So the fact that they've chosen this outfit, which is not mid-level gear, right? This is shit from Arbiter. The fact that they've put this here, maybe. I can't really comment yet. I haven't seen all the changes, but there's some signs that are pointing to this is definitely going to be worth having a look at to see if there's some stat stacking stuff we can do. Because also we've got access to all the extra jewels as well. And a great place to get lots of stats is with jewels, because you can corrupt them to have more attributes on them, as well as getting percentage increased attributes on jewels from Abyss crafting. And we can now boost the power of jewels. So you see where this goes, right? There's a whole bunch of percentage increases, just little ones that have come all over the place. But then do you look at where how many of these things you're going to have to get, and all of a sudden you go, nah, this is a mirror tier build. This is a mirror build. This isn't a cheap build. This is probably going to be a mirror build. You're not going to be throwing this together like for 5 divines, unless they do massive changes to things like the Regalia and make it percentage based again, which I don't think they will. But there are enough other percentage based things around that we could probably get hold of. Doris, I am going to Amsterdam on the Friday and I'm coming back on the Sunday. I'm going to be playing catch up on the first 48 hours. Yeah, Gemling I think is going to be good for a different way. I think I've got a funny feeling about Monk, because the more percentage stuff it's good potential to get if you start stacking with those gloves, right?
Needless to say, anyway, there's a lot to discover about this one. So that's what the class can do.
Yeah, Condi, that's
but how does it come together in practice?
This is the real pinnacle boss.
We've got a couple of in-game builds to show you to demonstrate the might of the martial artist. First up, the snowbound executioner wields a big staff, bells, and a very well-toned body to ice out his foes.
Mark and the Monk sitting in a tree. K-I-S-S-I-N-G.
Shattering Palm and Herald of Ice mow down packs of enemies.
I think that was Gelid Palm. No, it couldn't have been.
You continuously trigger the shockwaves.
You see what I mean? Look at the bell shockwave. This is why I think the bell's bait. I've been watching back pretty much this scene all day. Or well, I've watched all day. I've watched it back like 5 or 6 times this morning when I was thinking about stuff.
Palm and Herald of Ice mow down packs of enemies.
The bell is
continuously trigger the shockwaves
no
of both our bells.
This is an end game build, I assume.
Because we're constantly freezing enemies,
it's tiny.
We're generating lots of mountains teaching stacks to keep the damage flowing and protect us while clearing.
The ghost spell as well. That ghost spell is spawned and it's underneath that part of his UI. It's not even being brought into the combat. It's just waste. It's just waste. I think those 4 are waste.
And we're also taking full advantage of the Way of the Stonefist with this monstrous pair of gloves.
So that is
against tougher targets, we switch to Ice Strike and deploy even more bells per second with a temper spell. Our cooldown reduction also allows Hollow Resonance to trigger as frequently as possible.
Right. All the damage is coming from the bells that he's got out, not from the bell that's on his back. I don't think the bell that's on his back is adding anything. I think it's bait.
Even more
basically, also, he's got 1 bell out there. There is definitely a combination of support gems that you can put in the bell now that it's a strike skill that can be ancestrally boosted, which means you can put out all 3 at once, just with support gems. So I don't think we need to go 4 ascendancy points deep to pick up some bells that are going to appear in the wrong place, and to have 1 on our back that goes off when we critically strike, despite the fact that a lot of our critical strikes are going to be happening with nothing inside the range of our back bell, because that's just how the game works. So those 4 to me are bait, and I think there's going to be a lot of people getting quite excited about those 4 skills because they don't look like they're going to work very well. No culling threshold thing there. But yeah, those bells are bait. And you should be setting up the skills completely differently, and he should have Gathering Storm on his bar so he can fucking one-shot the bells and just go bang! And then all 3 bells are going to go and then the boss is just going to die immediately. That's how you play.
A little more fisticuffs. We've got a banger of a hollow palm technique build for you here. If you didn't know, hollow palm technique is a keystone on the regular passive tree that turns your fists into weapons in their own right.
Everywhere.
So it's perfect for martial artists. This particular build uses staggering palm's avalanche of projectiles to power up its whirling assault, and also gets great use out of Way of the Mountain thanks to how much it stuns enemies. But the centerpiece of the build is hollow form, and the huge benefits it gets from power charges.
It's too slow, right?
While
you don't want to be stopping in
we
a
can
map
rely on killing Palm's
like
inbuilt power charge generation.
Really? I don't think
but what to do about bosses? Well, we've made sure killing Palm can handle those too.
Although
with Culmination and Aelith's Chimes providing a power charge engine, and Martial Adept.
I was wondering why they had changed. I mean, that is actually quite a big change. Let's see if we can go back. Let's go back.
And all those two. With
So Culmination has changed. This was supported. It used to be supported skills can just gain unlimited combo. Then last patch they changed it to supported skills can gain 20 combo. They've now changed it to supported skills can gain 10 combo. They haven't reduced the damage. It's 4% more damage per combo. It used to be 2% more damage per combo. So it's the same amount of damage.
Culmination and Aelith's Chimes.
But that specifically nerfs the interaction with Aelith's Chimes. So rather than being able to press a button and get 5 guaranteed power charges, 6 guaranteed power charges, you're now going to get between 3 and 4 with Aelith's Chimes, meaning to set up a boss one-shot using something like Falling Thunder, you wouldn't be doing it in 1 rotation anymore. You'd have to do 2. Presuming nothing's changed with boss HP, because nothing's changed with Falling Thunder. Oh, there's also removed some of the crit damage scaling, so probably a little bit harder to get the boss one-shot online quite as fast. And it's not going to be a one-shot anymore, it's going to be a double rotation, but I think the boss one-shots from Gathering Storm and the bells are still not a one-shot. You have to get a perfect strike, but see. Happy weekend, Joma.
Chimes providing a power charge engine, and Martial Adept cranking it into overdrive. Which means, when a boss crosses your path, you can just do this. It is clear to see the martial artist is a well-disciplined powerhouse. So, which path will you choose? Decide for yourself on May 29th when Return of the Ancients launches. Thanks for watching, and see you then.
So I'm definitely going to be league starting a martial artist. Well, league starting. I'm going to be starting my league 48 hours later, getting boosted by Milk to the end game, and then picking the martial artist ascendancy. Is what I'm going to be doing. Or Gondi, or Jamie, or whoever's around on the Monday. Maybe all of them at once. But there's definitely some good builds there, and I think the good builds involve none of what they just showed there. I don't think it involves any of the things they just showcased there. Don't get me wrong. So let me go back and just highlight the points again. Let's see if we can really catch these bells. I think it's... In fact, let me get another beer. And then we're going to go through these bells. And we're going to have a look at where these bells actually spawn compared to where whoever's playing it is going. And I'm pretty sure that we're going to see somewhere around a 60% uselessness in the bells. Those spells, which are just... You don't want to spend 2 ascendancy points just to unlock something that's only going to hit stuff that's right next to you in this game. It's... meh. Did it, camera? At least that's what I'm thinking, anyway. Literally, I just played Whirling Assault for the last league, and the whole point was nothing was ever close to me. like ever. Anyway, let's have a quick look.
We've got a couple of endgame builds to show you to demonstrate the might of the martial artist. First up, this snowbound executioner wields a big staff, bells, and a very well-toned body to ice out his foes. Shattering Palm and
Well, there was one back there. There's another one just there.
Herald of Ice.
One there. So let's have a look again. Where'd that first one spawn?
Shattering
Yeah, so there's one there. Just off screen, up the top.
Palm and Herald
Another
of
one's just appeared there. No, not for shit.
Ice.
Probably there is going to be something that does more DPS than Falling Thunder, yeah.
Down packs of enemies and continue.
That one got used. There's one there.
Continuously trigger the shockwaves of both our bell skills. Because we're constantly freezing enemies,
behind him,
we're
no
generating
enemies.
lots of mountains teaching
Another
stacks
one behind him. So I've seen one that's hit enemies
to
so
keep
far.
the damage flowing and
Another
protect
one
us
behind
while
him.
clearing. And we're also taking full advantage of Way of the Stone Fist with this monstrous pair of gloves.
So yeah, the ghost bells definitely bait the ones that appear on the floor.
Against tougher targets,
Even here, they're just spawning behind him. This picture here is literally, you've got one that's going to be in play when you've been standing there waiting for Zesh to do his whole fucking spiel. I suppose if you stood against the wall, they would all like appear in a chunk around him, and then you could burst them all at once. You'd probably just positioning. You probably could tuck yourself in the throne room. They're all going to appear like here. Then they'd all work, but like.
Switch to Ice Strike and deploy even more bells per second with a temper spell. Our cooldown reduction also allows Hollow Resonance to trigger as frequently as possible.
That is a lot of damage from temper spell, by the way, from one bell.
For even more.
And that is just one bell. It's not ancestrally boosted, so he's only putting down one bell at a time. Like the bell's hitting for about 1 million per shockwave. So with Gathering Storm and the bells, you're going to be able to one-shot the boss. As long as you can get the perfect strike off, it's going to blow the bells up for 1000% damage. Evening. Observe that bell which appeared in the back. No, I didn't observe that.
More damage.
I just noticed they weren't really in a very good place.
If you'd rather a little more fisticuffs, we've got a banger of a Hollow Palm technique build for you here. If you didn't know, Hollow Palm technique is a keystone on the regular passive tree that turns your fists into weapons in their own right, so it's perfect for martial artists. This particular build uses Staggering Palm's avalanche of projectiles to power up its whirling assault, and also gets great use out of Way of the Mountain thanks to how much it stuns enemies. But the centerpiece of
You know what happened just after they cut this clip, don't you? They fucking died.
But
they literally that is the split second before death. That is the split second before death. You can see they don't dodge roll. They do another whirling assault, and you can see all of these fire things are about to go off at once, and they are standing there. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or 8 fire things about to hit them all at once. And then, oh, next scene, please. I didn't notice that the first few times. I didn't notice that the other times I watched it. That was a rip clip.
But the centerpiece of the build is Hollow Form, and the huge benefits it gets from power charges. While clearing, we can rely on Killing Palm's inbuilt power charge generation. But what to do about bosses? Well, we've made sure Killing Palm can handle those too, with Culmination and Aelith's Chimes providing a power charge engine, and Martial Adept cranking it into overdrive. Which means, when a boss crosses your path, you can just do this. It is clear to see the martial artist is a well-disciplined powerhouse.
Oh, look what tags it's got.
So, which path will you choose? Decide for yourself on May 29th when Return of the...
I think they attack with your damage with like 30% less or something. I have to open this on another screen. POEDB hits me with the personalized ads that tell you guys where I live. Martial artist. Oh, it's gonna do it, isn't it? It's gonna hit you with the ads. Well, thanks POEDB for being. Why are you not up to date? Form? So it uses your skills. It uses you. It's you with 15% less damage and 30% less attack speed. I don't think those are the skills anyway. I don't think any of these damage skills. I think the stuff to... honestly, I think it's those four. I think they are the four baller ascendancies. This is all trap. Trap, 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 trap. I think it's those four. And depending on the build and the gloves you're using, you might even not want Way of the Stone Fist. You might want to take the runes, which sounds really weird, but if you would do a Hoa build, the way a Hoa changes isn't that great. It's not that great. You probably want to keep some lightning for the shock. Scale your lightning with it, but you're doing stat stacking. Yeah, I don't see... Hollow form does seem very good, like as a boss killer. You just nuke the fuck out of a boss with it. But there's other ways. It doesn't seem any different to using Falling Thunder or the Bell Gathering Storm combo that's going to be in the next patch because of the new interaction between Gathering Storm and the bells. I think both of those are going to be as good, if not better, than Hollow Form. So why would you spend Ascendancy points on Hollow Form? Also, you have to channel it. Like, other than it looking cool, is it necessary when you consider the other tools in the toolkit? No. Hollow Resonance. This looks good if you're using Ice Strike and you're, like, hitting a boss. Other than that, it doesn't look very good. Because its Shockwave is too small. It's also got massive cooldown time on it. So... But it can store 3 uses, so it can ring 3 times, and then it starts the cooldown. Its attack damage is 187%. That's a bit shit. It's not good. And its area is too small. It's trap. These could be really good, but I don't know what runes are in the game, so maybe. And then Hollow Focus, we just literally went through the video, and 80% of the bells don't appear in a place where you would want them. This probably has limited use during leveling because it's a good way to generate power charges and other resources when it's hard to do it against the enemies. That's about it. Nothing new yet, but about 20 minutes and there probably will be, right? Just doing the great hour-long stall-a-thon where we talk a little bit more in depth about the monk. Yeah, I think I sussed it this morning. When I woke up. I woke up sober. I was like, everything is clear now. It's obviously Way of the Stone Fist. This is, from the lines we've seen, there's obviously going to be some fucking stupid shit we can do with this in terms of getting a lot more stats, more multipliers on the gloves for things like global evasion and stuff like that, and we're probably going to want to push a hard evasion build with what they've done with Energy Shield. Now, the big nerf they've done is to Energy Shield recharge time. What the fuck do we care if we've got that? What do we care about energy shield recharge time? Just press Temper Spell. So that's going to be fucking nuts. The Martial Master with gain combo from all attack hits. It's this line, though. It's the skills can build and retain combo regardless of weapon set. There's some really cool stuff you could do with monks if you could just keep combo between your sets. Hey, man. This enables that cool stuff. This enables, like, cool weapon switches on a monk build, which is something that only dreams have been made of for the last 4 patches because of the way quarterstaff skills work and combo works. There's some stuff you could do, but it's not as good as the stuff you should be. Oh, I love you, Yoshi. It's not as it's not as good as what you should be able to do with, like, putting a load of area or extra attack damage on the bell, right? Because you're only putting that bell out for a split second, and if you can snapshot a load of damage into it, it affects the shockwaves, which is massive, especially if you're putting 3 of those bells down at once. Alternatively, you could maybe use it for your just wombo combo, where you put down the 3 bells and then Gathering Storm them, and you just fucking send the damage to the moon on a weapon switch. Because you know you're only going to be using it just for, like, a big boss hit, just to kill a boss, and then you're probably going to be using, like, Freezing Palm, Herald of Ice, and maybe Whirling Assault with a Cold Shift on it late game. And then because of all that freeze, you're going to be getting Way of the Mountain all the time. Forceful Kill will be really, really good. Be a really, really good ring. Like, getting this online early as well. I don't remember the name, but wasn't there a gem that increased attack speed on weapon set 1? Yep. Yes, Fab Skills. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Rigwold's Ferocity. Yeah. All of a sudden, you can bring things like that into the game as well, right? You can get another more multiplier that comes in just for your bell because it's on weapon set 2. And you've got another more multiplier on it. And, like, you know, these things start to come to life. There's a lot of numbers that come in. It's big. Very big. There's a lot of hidden sexy in this that is not. It's not these things. These are flashy. They've got big cards, and it's all, look at all the things happen. No. The numbers, the sexy numbers are down here, where you've got to read. That's okay. Don't worry. I'm reading for you. I've got this. Anyway, on to Way of the Mountain. So Way of the Mountain, every time you immobilize an enemy, you're gonna generate way. Sorry, let's get some tobacco out of my tobacco box. So, yeah, I do smoke quite a lot. I smoke too much. I'm off to Amsterdam next weekend, and it's going to be really fucking expensive. Like, really fucking expensive. My own fault for 15 years of degeneracy. But there we go. Yeah. 15 years? Oh, fuck, no. It's 2 decades of degeneracy. Fucking 36, I'm not 31. God damn it. Anyway, Way of the Mountain. 100% surpassing chance per enemy power to gain Mountain's teaching on a mobilizing enemy. So, per enemy power, but the elites have... Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Elites have... uniques have 20 power. So you'd get 2,000 surpassing chance. So you get 20... You just get 20 Mountain's teachings as soon as you froze or stunned a boss. Lose a mountain's teaching when you are hit or where you sustain an attack that benefits from mountain's teaching. So Whirling Assault is going to be a big one here, right? Because if you've got Whirling Assault geared up with cold, it's going to use one mountain's teaching to cast the thing, and you're potentially going to get as many. You're going to get as many mountain's teachings as things you hit because you're just going to freeze them pretty much immediately. And then you're getting another 15% more damage multiplier on every attack, which is big, right? They're on attacks that you're saying going to hit stuff. Like your Whirling Assault's going to hit the whole screen with 15% more damage. That's your Whirling Assault hitting the whole screen with 15% more damage because you've scaled things like area and the fact that it's your main attack ability is going to be, for instance, a hell of a lot better than Hollow Resonance, which has a 2-meter radius, isn't going to hit anything, and actually has a similar attack damage profile to Whirling Assault. Yeah. But that 15% more damage is going to be a lot more with everything else on. And then enemy hits that would deal damage deal less than or equal to 30% of your maximum life after mitigation, which is going to be most stuff. Well, it's quite often hard to get armor on a monk, right? So we're probably not going to have that much fizz mitigation. So how often this comes in? It's probably not going to come in when you need it, which is against boss hits. They're going to just fucking delete you. Just don't get hit. However, for dealing with like rares or up to tier 15 maps, this is going to be taking into effect pretty much any time anything hits you. So you've got 40% less damage multiplier there as well, which you're generating just by using your primary attack. Through my mic. We're shouting right outside my house. It's not coming through my mic though. And then yeah, -2 seconds we've established. That's going to have your energy shield recharge coming back all the time because of A-list shines and culmination. Martial Masters going to give, yeah. Why would you use any of this stuff? Why would you use any of this stuff? I can't see a good argument for it myself. For any of those, they're just they're flashy and skills that they can put on the screen, but I don't actually think they're good. Really don't. On the face of it, it's unnecessary. It's just more things for the sake of having more things. One more time. Watch it one more time.
The dreamer showed me a path.
Potentially. So Saprep, I actually agree with you that Runic Meridians has some potential. The potential it might outstrip to me is Way of the Stone Fist. For me, it's if I'm gonna switch it with anything, it's Way of the Stone Fist. Especially if Way of the Stone Fist reduces melee levels across the board. I might just be taking a pair of +3 melee gloves. +2 melee gloves, if that's the max now. I can't remember what the max is. I think they've changed things. Twister's great. Twisters, everyone's going to play fucking Twisters, dude. Everyone's going to play Twisters into a Spirit Walker. The path is going to go this. Twisters, Spirit Walker, Monkey. Monkey everywhere. Just fucking pillar smashing Monkey. That's going to be the next league. It's League of the Monkey.
But through discipline and
Path of Twisters, League of Monkey.
Training.
Yeah.
I have forged my own.
Yep.
So my one from 0.3, which is currently 0.4, will be becoming 0.5. And this will always be my leveling guide for taking a monk using the least cost possible, preferably no cost, through to getting it into endgame, getting it to tier 15 maps, at which point I will have other guides that work for that linked at the top, where you can then switch it to a more of a mid or end game guide off of Hollow Palm. But yeah, this should get you there. These gloves will probably change because they've changed Leech quite considerably. I'm probably going to change these gloves to something else, and this will change to the early end cold will change to this will change to be martial artist focused, and it will get the changes. But I'm just waiting for updates. I think Gathering Storm's going to be key. When do I go bear? What's up, Shuey? Right? One sec. Way up there. No, I don't think enough. But yeah, this will be like. This is pretty good. This still looks pretty good. I just switched out those gloves. It looks like it would work. But yeah, this is on Invoker. On Martial Artist, but I really don't think it would change much beyond what we've got here. Maybe take some of the area nodes instead. And this should have step through. I want to change some of this. Actually, no, this still works. Tempest Flurry should probably be Ice Strike. Why have I still got a Cord Staff? No, I shouldn't have a Cord Staff equipped. The Hollow Palm. Act 3 do the evasion switch. Yeah. Yeah, it'll be this one update.
In Return of the Ancients, we're adding the third Ascendancy class for the monk, the Martial Artist. The Martial Artist took his training into his own hands and has spent decades mastering his proficiency of hollow techniques, building his body into the ultimate weapon.
Probably wear the Stone Fist first.
The monk may still walk the Dreamer's path, but the Martial Artist redefines how.
Honestly, the runes where you can socket runes in yourself might be the best thing to take first in campaign, even though you wouldn't use them at the end game, because you can just socket in a load of resistances. You can just sock in like fucking 50% worth of resistances for every boss and just be like, well, no, you can't, because you're not going to have that many runes. Probably Way of the Stone Fist or all the runes, depending on the amount of runes you've collected through campaign. If you've got enough runes, then being able to get a bunch of extra stats, HP from strength or resistances in campaign is going to be immediately very useful for surviving bosses. But at the same time, the channel skill might be... No, I don't know. I think either Wear the Stone Fist or the Rune Meridians, depending on whether you've picked up a pair of good gloves or good runes by that, or enough, or spare runes by that point. If you picked up spare runes, then just take the resistances.
Mostly by punching things very hard. Let's take a look at what he has to offer, starting with his exclusive skills. Hollow Focus rings a death knell for your foes. Ethereal bells constantly appear around you, and hitting them causes them to shatter with a powerful shockwave.
Unlikely to be available.
These bells can always be culled and are always primed for stun, so using them with Killing Palm and Stagger.
That's a nice little showcase. So he's got 3 power charges and
so using
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10? That's correct. That's the correct number for 3 power charges, I believe. To have 10 Falling Thunder things. So that's still going to work. Falling Thunder's still going to be like a big one-hit ability, but I don't think it's going to be the best. Don't. Let's jump over to the... patch notes quickly and Control F, Gathering Storm. So this is a really interesting line in the patch notes. On the monk side of things. In fact, there's 2 here. There's 2 amazing lines, which I think are going to be skills that are going to come in a big way to these builds. Gathering Storm now causes perfectly timed dash to explode any Temper spell on hit. So let's have a quick look at Temper spell as well. So Temper spell can now be ancestrally boosted as though it were a strike skill. Ancestral boost. Ancestrally boosted strike will target 2 additional enemies. I mean, don't be wrong. It would have been nice if it was a slam for 30% more damage and 25% increased area of effect. But target 2 additional enemies. Now it'd be ancestrally boosted though it was a strike. Its maximum number of active bells has been increased to 3. 2. 1. 3. 1, 2, 3. It all fucking counts up, right? So anyway, you ancestrally boost your Temper spell when you cast it. With like, and there's a support gem, I can't remember the name of it. But it will ancestrally boost it every 14 seconds or something. I think you can get one that does 6 as well later on. So now when you cast it, you put down 3 bells at once, because it's going to target 2 additional enemies. But if there's only 1 enemy there, that enemy gets targeted 2 additional times. So you're just going to go bang, 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 and put down 3 bells immediately. Then you do a perfect Gathering Storm. Let's go back to Gathering Storm. Now, it explodes any Temper spell on hit, creating a massive shockwave that deals 564 to 869% attack damage. So there's something that's going to be close to, at level 20, 3000% attack damage going off, because you've got 3 bells and they're all going to explode, and Gathering Storm's going to hit for its damage. I mean, that sounds like that sounds like you're probably going to have a pretty good boss one-shot there. It's going to take a little bit of skill, but I think it's going to be the fastest you can do with quarterstaffs, given the changes to Aelith's Chimes and how quickly you can get power charges for Falling Thunder now, because Aelith's Chimes will only give you half the number of power charges it was giving you as before. And that's going to be the play. And it's going to be spicy. And it's going to look really cool. But it's going to be quite hard to pull off. So my changes, I will probably have changes coming to that guide around using this. Unfortunately, it's going to be on theory. It's on theory when we get to practice it. I'll make a 0.5 tab. Cold. You want to be using cold. Well, really, you want to be using a combination of the two so that you also apply shock. Hey, how's it going? You want to have some lightning damage, so you apply some shock. But you want cold, quite a lot of cold flat across the place, especially if you're going Whirling Assault, because you're going to want your Whirling Assault to freeze. If your Whirling Assault isn't freezing, then you're not going to be getting way of the mountain. enough of a consistency that, and you'll see when we get Herald of Ice procs, enough of a consistency that you'll keep it up through mapping. So I think you want to go cold flats across both rings. Honestly, unless there's a glove that really does something good with Hollow Palm, you're going to want to use a Quarter Staff eventually. Hollow Palm's just a starter. Yeah. Probably not Ice Strike, though. Well, it might start with Ice Strike, because it's easier to get your freeze off. But we'd be looking to move towards Whirling Assault once we've got some investment in there. We can get that to do enough cold damage to freeze. Whirling Assault is just better. It hits the whole screen. If you can get it to freeze, it's just a screen-wide Ice Strike, right? Boss one-shot is... could go for Falling Thunder again, but that sounds a bit boring. The changes to Gathering Storm and the changes to Temper Spell. Probably going to be the boss one-shot, right? Ancestrally boosted, Temper Spell. Put 3 of them down at once. Perfect Strike, Gathering Storm. Blow them all up. Blow something up. It's going to be the plan. I think the first combo node, Native Chimes and Shattering Palm for power charges, and it freezes. Yeah. I'd rather just run around just casting Whirling Assault and have it fill the whole screen, though. Just have the whole screen being Whirling Assault. I'll show you my idea, because I never made a video about this. Because I was going to league start it. So I never made a video. I kept it all secret. Well, I didn't keep it secret. I fucking streamed it for ages, but... where is it? When did I last stream? Here we before this league. That's a lot of non-temple content. Ritualist. I'll make a video about this guy. You know, the TV Cyclone.
Hello guys, today we are going to be talking about
Shut up, me. Right one. Where's it doing something?
Tactile element.
Yeah, that's... why is it such... why is the quality, like... awful? Yeah, that's kind of small. The Smith of Catava one... the Smith of Catava build was a lot... I went, like, full into area on the Smith of Catava build. You can get that a lot bigger. They have changed... I think they've changed the more area to increase, though. I'm playing Twisters, man. If I wanted to play Twisters, I would have played Twisters 3... expansions ago, when it was actually new, and not now that everyone's discovered it because Copium played it. Right, we got any news? Did we get news? This is the big question. What? I want to go to game, I want to go to home. No news. Not even a deep dive mechanic recap. I think actually Fubgun's playing bows this league. I do think he's playing bows. The reason I think this is because he put out a tweet. Oh, is it the Tavern Talk? Oh, it is, isn't it? What time's that? Oh, shit. It is that tonight. You're right, dude. You're right. Oh, I might have to restream that. What the fucking time is that? Probably some silly time. Oh shit, I think it's literally right now.
One focus, but
because we're
working on so many leagues at the same time, it was just really, really hard to bring together. So I would say it's honestly been one of the tougher development cycles in terms of just like getting the studio.
I don't want to be in Mark's. I don't want to be in Mark's way,
because like even just like a review session, we would go through one and have a look at a bunch of stuff, and then be like, oh crap, we totally forgot about this total other area. Like honestly, like so many times I'm like, we've forgotten how much content is even in this damn release.
Reminder.
We would just miss stuff, and then so yeah, like it just made it really, 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 really difficult. But also yeah, when there's so many different scattered things, it is quite stressful because you're like you just have this feeling of like I'm
green screen
all the time. So yeah,
right now,
real tough one. But
right
the
now,
thing is like in the last,
he is playing
having
post.
that extra
Yes,
time between the announcement and the release has actually been really, really good because we've kind of getting everything back together again. Like we can sort of see it as a cohesive thing again, and that's honestly been really, really important, especially for doing an in-game release.
I've only just put it on myself, Colonel Go Hard. It's literally.
There come a point when you guys were developing it where you kind of were like, hey, okay, we have too much on the scale. Like this is where we have to stop. Like, because I remember in one of the interviews, Mark was saying he was looking at notes, and you had so many notes that you got to a point where you're like, I don't even remember making these notes. You were cooking so much.
The problem that we had is that because we wanted to really make sure that the message was like the end game has totally changed, on some level we just had to do sort of everything. So yeah, even though we might have liked to make it smaller, we kind of honestly couldn't.
Yeah.
Which isn't to say there wasn't like a bunch of stuff that we didn't end
I
up
was certain
anyway,
this was going to be a full end game overhaul.
Still, it's been we sort of had to do something. And then like it kind of led to this fact that then we're like a month later than we would hope would be, and that kind of thing as well. So like there's been stuff like that that's kind of definitely been downsides. But overall, I think it is really important because it's just a really important change. Like it really does very fundamentally change how the end game feels. And I was even seeing recently like there are just a lot of people who they wouldn't play the end game of PoE 2 because it just doesn't have
an end game.
Like you need something to sort of like give them some direction, and we just didn't have that. And so now I've got people who are like friends, so they've like played through the PoE 2 campaign, but they've never really been an end game player. And all of a sudden they're like, oh, okay, I actually am going to play this. Like that's been a thing that I've seen. So it's something that I'm like that I think.
I think I'm more shocked that Jonathan has friends.
Do you think that that's primarily like the reason they didn't play the end game was because of a level of confusion of like what do I do next? Do you feel like you didn't have enough like things in it to make it interesting? Because I remember something you come back to like pretty continually when this point gets brought up is like if an area feels like too big or like uncomfortable, that a lot of times it's an indicator of not having enough things in it.
I think that can be the case, but I do think in this situation, it really was more the direction. Like you got to the end game before it opens up and it's like, okay, well now I can just kind of go wherever, right? Like there wasn't really you do need a quest line. Like you do need something there, just to give you some form of understanding what to do. And I find even myself, I'm like way more interested in doing end game stuff right now than I was before.
Indeed, separate. Indeed.
Like, yeah, like it helps a lot.
Would you say that this is a focus more of the idea of creating a getting off point, or is it more towards just creating a sense of direction? Like which one matters the most, or is it like a mix of the two?
It really is a mix of the two. Like both of those things are important. And we did, I think, before we got to developing 050, we were mostly talking in terms of giving people direction. But during 050 timeline, when was it? There was a moment, I can't remember when it was, Mark, but there was some moment where we were kind of like, where we realized like the problem with PoE 2 right now is that you don't know when to stop playing, and therefore you have the situation and people just get like more and more bitter about like the fact that they're just doing the same thing again. Like, there just wasn't, like, that getting off point thing was just super important. So yeah, that was definitely an 050 time horizon when we realized that, and that's also been one of those things where we sort of somewhat later in development, we realized that we had to make the time it took to do the stuff shorter. Like it getting longer and longer was actually a problem as well. Like we actually had something where the amount of time it would take to finish it was too high. And that's even been something we've changed in the last like few weeks even more. So previously we kind of assumed that it would be fine to have like, I can't remember the number there was. There was probably like 25, 30 maps, something like that in each of the areas for the individual leagues. And you had to do all of those in order to get all the points for a league tree. And we were kind of like, that seemed fine at first. Like we sort of thought that would be okay. But actually the amount of time that an average user takes to do 30 maps is actually quite long. And in practice, when you're playing it, it just kind of felt like there was too much there. So then what we decided to do is make it so that when you kill the pinnacle boss, you get an extra 6 points. So
I heard them saying
you can effectively not do 6 of the maps, and then if
the
you
average
go into
time to complete a map was 15 minutes.
And kill it again, you basically get 6 points. So you can effectively complete it 2 ways. You either do all the maps one by one, or you kill the pinnacle boss more times to get more points that way. And effectively, that means that the time taken to actually do one of those league trees has been reduced. And so we're really focusing on basically just making sure that it doesn't feel like it takes too long to do an individual league. So you can make sure that you
all of them.
that the cleanup phase part does not feel annoying.
Cool. Sure. We I think we're now at the where I see it discussing with others, but I think I'm the same. Where I'm going to get to the pinnacle boss, kill the pinnacle boss.
No, Mark's cutting out.
Get fast.
Kind of cutting out a little bit there. I don't know if it's just on my end, but you're kind of cutting in and out a little bit on
me as well.
Yeah.
Is this better?
Seems better.
Everything working here, testing? Yeah, not sure. Anyway, we're at the point now where when I'm playing, and I've seen this a few other more high-end players in the office as well, I think we really wanted to get to the point where we, as a good player, you should think, okay, I'm going to get to the pinnacle boss, kill the players in the office, league, including the fortress, and then go into the infinite. There's something about wanting to do that, and when the completion time for everything was so long, there was like, okay, this is starting to feel too grindy, and I want to get out there. I want to get more pinnacle kills and all of that, and yet I'm feeling like I'm having to. I guess it's that not wanting to have to turtle for too long. That the same thing the original tower mechanic had, and it started to feel that way, where it's like I want to get out there, but I can't, and I want to move to the next league, but I can't, and so yeah, it's at this. Like I think the number of towers when we first did the presentation was 8 on the fortress, and each tower meant every time you killed the arbiter, you could complete a section of maps. Now it's 5. So like we've been shortening that, and I think the number of maps, I think the total number of maps you have to run to finish the fortress if you were to just shortest path, then go farm the infinite, is now like it's probably actually less than if you were to finish the whole fortress, which is interesting because at first I was like, surely doing the whole fortress should be less maps total, but actually just due to the fact that you don't have determinism when out there, and you're finding other things, you're on other little kind of effectively side quests, it does end up being that you kind of want it to be less maps overall because you're constantly having to do all these other things while in the infinite. So it's at this nice fine line now where it is balanced. It's feeling a lot better, whereas like before it was definitely, and immediately from a handful of our staff that were playing, they're just like,
it definitely
holy crap,
is.
this is taking forever. So it's in a real good spot. And then, yeah, as Jonathan said, now just even all the leagues have the same thing. So only the Fortress had the shortcutting, I guess you could say. Now every single one of the leagues has it to some degree. It's feeling really good, for sure. And yeah, hopefully we'll have to see, because it's that kind of thing as well, where when you play it a second time, you're going to have a little bit of a different feeling about it. And so we'll have to see how that comes as well once we have another league start at some point.
Hang on.
Is that sort of what...
That's usually how it...
Go on, bud. Go on.
What's the time in New Zealand right now?
That's kind of like the whole cadence of playing something for the first time, because I think the point
isn't it
was the early access launch was like one of the most exciting things ever.
Isn't it 10 o'clock on Sunday morning?
The second time we play through it, that's when we go nitpicking. Like, you know what, that area is a little too large, or that issue there. You start being, seeing the downsides.
So he's having a glass of wine at 9:13 in the morning.
By the positive things. I'm just curious if this is the reason you guys kind of want to have both of the last acts coming to 1.0 instead of.
I fucking love Jonathan now.
Kind of reasoning there.
It's not that.
It's my spirit
reason,
animal.
That
changed my mind.
Advantage,
no one can say a bad word about it again.
The reason is just that we think that 1.0 needs to have something that like is like there's a lot of people, especially if you're talking about the sort of more casual audience,
fucking hero
interested in his campaign stuff, and so by finishing the campaign in 1.0, those people are just going to be attracted to sort of make that release like a good release. And at the same time, I don't think there's like a lot of risk there for us in terms of like, we know how to make an act now, if you know what I mean. Like, it's not going to be one of those things where we're like, we have to make sure we're testing this because it's gonna, it's gonna go off the rails or something like that. Like, we know we can do it, so therefore we feel quite safe just putting something like that in 1.0.
He's fucking having a glass of wine at Tinker.
So yeah, that's kind of like ultimately it comes down to that. And also, like, right now, the other thing as well is, like, if we hadn't have added the interludes, we'd probably be feeling pretty differently about this. But because we've got the interludes there to kind of mean that you don't have that whole thing which we originally were going to have during the entirety of early access, which is where you'd have to repeat parts of the campaign. Because we don't have that, it kind of means that like we don't have that thing dragging us down and making the early access feel worse as well. So, but I think the thing that has been interesting, is like all that sort of campaign replayability stuff as well. That's been something that I'm really hoping that people will see that we've made some pretty big strides there this time as well. Like the replaying thing, the more times you replay it, the more annoying certain things get. And I saw some freaking short recently that DM made. With you like being like, oh yeah, I hit it as soon as Act 3, and actually, that was the moment, by the way, when I saw that. Is like, I'm gonna fix this freaking lever thing that everyone's complaining about. It's actually
someone in the Discord earlier, Pikachu in the Discord earlier said when he hits Act 3 on the launch, he goes to bed.
That one, so
it's his time to just go, oh fuck this, I'm going to bed.
That was like one of the few things in the campaign replayability section I patch noted specifically. Because I was like, people are going to be happy to see.
Really don't like Act 3.
Stuff like that all around the place, right? Like we're improving a bunch of things around, and like then there's just some areas that were there were some areas that were too big and stuff like that, and like sort of annoying layouts. I mean, like just some simple examples. There was like after you kill Viper, there was like a little bit of extra level after killing Viper, and now after you kill Viper, it's like directly onto the exit to the next zone, and it's just stuff like that all over the place that we're doing, just streamlining and smoothing and stuff like that. So I'm hoping Act 3 will feel a lot better now than what it has in the past. Like I think it's a pretty significant improvement. But the other one as well is like, and this one, so I had an interesting experience recently where the build that I was playing was like not good, and it's been a little while since I played a really bad build. And like the monster density and the interludes when your build is bad is actually pretty damn terrible in terms of like the ability to clear through them. Like it was oppressive. And at some point I realized, like I was playing in an area called the Stones of Searle, which is like that one with the standing stones.
Yeah, that place sucks, man, if your build's bad.
At what point did we get it to the point in the interlude where you no longer have to move? Like you never use movement. Like every single thing you're doing is just attacking. And then because there's so many monsters, like you're just attacking your way from one place to another, and it just like never ever ends. And I'm like, this is actually kind of like, this is a grind. Like this is actually not good. Like campaign should not be like this.
No, it shouldn't.
So then it sort of forced me to be like, okay, there's some serious issues here. And we actually found, this one's actually
but if he tunes it down for a bad build, the good builds are going to go so fucking fast.
I think what happened was
bad builds are still going to feel bad.
There was some things about the pack density and campaign where we had
Jonathan's
like the last few areas get to a certain density.
Sat prep, that's the way
what used to be the last few areas being like the last couple of areas of Act 3, and then some of that stuff kind of continued on like deeper into the campaign, whereas it should have like dialed back again after being higher in those last few areas. And so I think that's probably what happened, but it just meant that some of those areas and but especially interlude just got ridiculous. And so that's something that I don't think I would have realized if I wasn't playing such a crap build. Because but I suspect that a lot of
whose build was it, Jonathan?
So that's been something I really want to
try. Whose build did you follow, Jonathan?
A little bit more. And I think that there's even some of that going on at the start of Endgame as well. Like there's a few things there that that if you're got a crap build, like you don't notice it if you don't if you've got a good build, but if you've got a bad build, it can actually be really oppressive. So like another one recently, I don't know if you want me to talk about this about the whole poise thing with powerful bosses. Like, are you good for me to mention that?
We're trying to get a feel for Monk.
Yeah, so here's an example of something.
Monk's really hard.
Playing,
really hard campaign.
Something that required freezing,
especially the first 15 levels.
It was the werewolf freeze combo, right? And I encountered it, but as I said, my build was crap. I was not building it well, and
it was yours, was it, Chris?
I got to a powerful boss to get the map upgrade, and I was like, okay. Normally, plus 100% life would kind of like, sure, it makes the boss fight twice as longer, but for some reason, I was hitting this powerful boss, and it made the fight feel like 3 times or worse. Like it was like really, really hard, like way harder than I expected. And it took a little while of asking around to try and find out what was going on here. But effectively, because my DPS was so dependent on getting the freeze, and we had a thing where when the boss gets life is doubled, effectively the poise thresholds, which we use for calculating, like resistances to things like getting frozen, got doubled as well.
Yeah,
it meant that
based on life threshold.
Effectively, my DPS was getting like maybe not halved, but something like halved due to the fact that I wasn't in the freeze. So my damage was half. The monster had double life, so it's effectively taking me 4 times longer to kill this boss than what it would normally take. And I was literally running out of flash charges and just like not being able to beat this thing. I'm like, I've hit a progress blocker upgrading from like T1 to T2 maps here. Like, this is a bad situation. And I'm like, yeah, sure, my build's crap and I could fix that, but like, why? Like, my crap build should be able to do this, right? Because this is one of those things where, you know, like if you're talking T1 maps, like this is something that an average player should not find as the roadblock, you know? And yeah, so it's like seeing there's still things like this around.
Mark doesn't let him play in his party. Mark's got a 6-man, and Jonathan's
banned. Just need to uncover and improve. And like, like that, right? This is one of those things where it really is quite.
Jonathan's not allowed
in the
to play
situation where you find something like that.
2 times 2 equals 4.
You know, and like, I'll give you another example of a random one I ran into just yesterday. Is okay, so the boss in the Bloodwood.
Don't leave him alone. He's got to do the director stuff, man. Someone's got to do it.
And I was talking to my friend who was sitting next to me, who was, you know, like every weekend, you know, he'll come over and we'll talk about various things. And I'm like, he was like, oh, that boss health bar is really long. And I'm like, well, how long should it be? Like, how long should it take to kill a boss? This kind of thing. This was the conversation. He's like, oh, for this boss, I'd say, because it doesn't have any interesting abilities at all, that it should be a lot shorter. I'm like, this boss does have a bunch of abilities. This is the Devourer. Like, what the hell? And then I realized, hang on a second, the Devourer and the Bloodwood, none of its freaking abilities are working. Like, it just sits there and freaking attacks you, and it doesn't like do the moving around thing. I'm like, how did I never notice this before? Like, and, like, the problem here is like someone who set that area up, they just forgot to put the markers in. Is what I'm assuming, right? I haven't actually.
I understand why Temple was put in, by the way. Temple was put in so that they could limit test what happened with effectiveness at scale.
And you're like,
effectiveness was kind of new. Now they've cut effectiveness in half.
A higher end player to fail to notice stuff like that, because it's one of those things you only run into when your build is crap and when it's taking you longer and that kind of thing. And so yeah, it's so hard as a developer to notice this.
We limit tested it in the first 2 weeks. That's why they hot fixed it, but then no one wanted it changed.
Yeah, the hope is just that, you know, that we can actually find all this stuff and fix it. Like, it does.
We do need a rarity fix still. Yeah,
it just takes a lot of iterations to sort of actually end up noticing stuff like that.
So I want to follow up on. I want to follow up on.
You go with first.
Yeah. I want to follow up on one point you said there, because I'm actually really interested about it, which is you said you realize you had a bad build. Right?
I think there has been
we're feeling swarmed because
I think there's been a change to negative rarity.
Right. So
by the way, I think negative rarity is nerfed out the game.
Okay, my build
because I think you now get exceptional items through a different
I'm getting
method.
Swarmed, as opposed to, like,
I think you increase your chance for exceptional items through a different method.
In a position where we feel like they should be in order to clear the mobs. When do you decide that?
I think negative rarity might be gone.
The issue as opposed to the skill
Mr. 9 Lives will have that tested out by the end of the first weekend.
My first reaction there was to compare effectively default attacks, because so the werewolf build I was using was like shred, and like, yeah, there's stuff that like there's stuff that I should have done for supports in order to make that better and so on. But we just sort of like looking like the first port of call was go to go to designers who know about like the getting the numbers right, and basically say like, is my build okay? Is the numbers right in terms of comparison? Like, you just have to get that information right, and like we decided, you know what, like, it is like what you've got here with your build isn't good, but in terms of the underlying skills, it is okay. Like, the numbers are fine. So like, that was an investigation, and then there's the question, okay, like, your build is bad, but your items
check in for negative rarity stuff, man. He's literally
it's like, here's a look at your passive tree, and it's like, okay, so
the Messiah.
My passive tree was like bad in the way that like you.
Well, the Antichrist. If the Messiah is about rarity, then Mr. 9 Lives is the Antichrist.
Taking a bit more of a defensive approach. Like, I was like, if I'm the kind of person who's going to allocate way more defenses and way less damage, and just like sort of see how that goes for me. That was like kind of part of what I was doing there. So yeah, like, I wanted to make sure that it can be okay even in that situation. Yeah, like there's also this other situation where if you're a good player, then because you're hitting the whole screen, like, the amount of monster density in a situation like that isn't necessarily, or like depending on a build, right? Most builds that are good have some kind of, they've got big AoE clear, right? Like, they have the ability. Like, it doesn't necessarily matter whether there's like 40 monsters on screen or 15 monsters on screen in terms of like their ability to clear that content.
Yeah.
So it sort of matters more for a build that doesn't have that as much, which I wasn't doing as much. So in the situation where you're a character like that, then the only thing that's the extra monsters are really doing is just giving you more drops in experience. And so we sort of have to make sure that like we're able to make sure that that's not broken. But I do think that we don't need, quite the level of spamminess that we had, in terms of just like tiresomeness. Like even something as simple as like there's a moment between one fight to the next where your energy shield can recover.
Can't remember Kevlar.
Just literally something as simple as that can be like something that can matter a little bit there. Like if it's
Jonathan's drinking a wine at 9 in the morning.
There is a problem there, especially during campaign.
One other follow up about this point, then I'll pass it off to Ghazi. Is you said you were kind of purposefully taking a more defensive approach, and I'm kind of curious at what realizations you came to. Like, what was your conclusion about making the building? Like, I'm going to heavily, more focus on defenses this time, as opposed to damage on the tree. Like, what was your experience like with that?
Well,
I think base farming will just be a different method to do it.
It's really hard to solve is that it's way harder to appreciate defense when you allocate it than damage. Like it can be quite like it does save you, but it's really hard to know that. And actually, I've got another thing a little bit with Runic Ward here as well, which I noticed as when I was doing this, which is that so I had some Runic Ward, and Runic Ward obviously you get to 1 life, and then it saves you and so on. But that's another one of those things that's really hard to appreciate. And I'd look down at my life sometimes, and I'd notice that my Runic Ward was like halfway filled, and I'm like, okay, so at some point there I would have died, and I just didn't know that. Because I'm like flasking or whatever, so I've got like a half health at the point where I look, but yet my water's down as well. It's like I actually didn't appreciate the fact that that ward had saved me. So then I was thinking about this, and I'm like, we actually need something like an audible, like, oh, my ward, I've lost my life, my ward is broken. Like we need some kind of sound to indicate that, to sort of say that like you actually got to the point where that ward helped you, so you actually can appreciate the fact that the defense worked.
That should be the sound.
But then I was like, hang on a second, why do we not have a sound for energy shield breaking? Like, how have we gotten to this point and we don't have a sound like that? And then I actually looked into it, and it turns out we do have that sound. There is a thing there. It's just that because it happens when you get hit, and because when you're getting hit, there's a lot of sound going on. There's immediately this, like the thing where effectively you don't hear it, right? You might as well not hear it. And what we really need is a sound that's more like when you get heavy stunned. There's like, so not when you get heavy stunned. When you heavy stun a monster, there's like sort of sound that's quite distinctive that kind of cuts through everything that you sort of like learn to hear. I really need to sound like that when your energy shield breaks. Yeah. Because that's a moment when you should be thinking, oh shit, like you need that moment. And I think that having that audible sound, like we actually do need to lean into a little bit more of those kind of things. But like there's not like necessarily a realistic sound, but it needs to be a sound that can cut through all the other stuff that you're hearing, so that you just sort of know that you've hit that moment.
That'd be a really good user experience change, actually.
Defensive layers, like just more of those cues. I'm not sure how you do that for something like
all the senses are engaged when you're playing the game.
Like evasion, even like ideally,
they could make a smell when the energy shield is broken. That'd be great.
Right now, you just kind of can't. But I do think
it smells like shit. Oh no, something bad is happening.
Those defenses be more appreciated because they do work. It's just that you often don't appreciate that they do.
I have a few things on the
that's how COD always did that.
I honestly think your passive tree is 100% fine. I don't even think it could be that much better.
Jonathan looks excited, man. He's having a good time.
Good. Your gear completely fine. And by the way, and like because I was looking at your character and I was like, when you're clearing, you're quite tanky. It's appreciable. It's fine. And then so I was like, okay, the gear is good. The tree is fine. Like, sure, it could be better, but like, on a level that honestly shouldn't be necessary. I was like, you are defensive. Like when you're playing, your character's not just like, up and down in life all the time. It's like quite consistently.
He's about to say he's got a skill issue.
Life, and it's certainly you have decent armor, decent energy shield. It's working.
Yep.
But yeah, it was interesting. I think you said to me at that point, because I was like telling you, I was like, you're fine. Like, what are you talking about? And then you were like, what did you say? You said, what? Okay, if it's not my character, what do I have to change as a person in order to be able to do this content? I was like, wow. But honestly, the biggest flaw you had was just your support gems. That was the biggest actual issue.
No.
But it's like you didn't do the wrong thing there. You just didn't do necessarily the right thing. Like, you just did what was intuitive. And so there's some highlighting there, and it's like.
Yeah, that's what you're saying.
You followed the recommended supports for Shred.
Oh my god!
So that is the thing
what do I need to change as a person?
But you were also the developer that said what they were, and so you could have made. There's a question of did you make a wrong decision as a player, or did you make a wrong decision as a developer? And there's an interesting thing there of trying to assess which of those went wrong. And so then it's kind of like, okay, sure, those fixed and made it a bit better, but we did make a pretty hyperactive set of changes based on your play experience, because when you were like,
me too,
what do I have
dude.
to change as a person?
I'm actually
it's
fucking
like,
dying.
Well, honestly, you should
Is he
be
saying
able
this
to
to his
kill this boss.
CEO?
You should be able to get further, and
Live.
this is too hard and isn't working correctly. And then there were a number of encounters, and it was actually quite.
He does seem to put down
interesting
support
because I just watched you play for like 4 hours, and I was just like writing stuff down the whole time of just like, you know, because it is true. I don't have a relatable personal experience to what was happening there. Like I would normally be in a substantially better position to just have a bit either via more planning or again, I don't put in the wrong supports. I even when you were like, what are the right supports? I was like, oh, just search for this. And then it's like, how do you even know to look for that if you didn't know to look for that? So there's a bunch of interesting things here where, it identifies when you are watching someone with a bad build, be it an in-game or IRL one, I guess. I can't really.
When did Gazzy last
you kind of like, you know, what's actually wrong here, and it is true that it is quite hard to relate with, especially
some
on like
players
a personal
don't.
level. So I'm quite good at when I observe. I'm quite
Jonathan
good at
sounds more like
that people often don't see, as well. And but yeah, it's
probably
been
the
a
average
really
player.
Fun amount of like really looking at the early in game. Really iterating on it.
Just
and
wants to play a video game. They don't want to spend fucking 20 hours thinking about how they're going to play the video game before they play it.
It's been really fun
normal.
just getting
it's
like, here's
normal.
the list of problems every day that Jonathan's run into, and then just iterating on them. And they're all so fundamental. They're all like, and I think this is something I want to stress and goes back to, it's something I mentioned to Ziggy as well with respect to like even just the defenses on the tree. Like there's just fundamentally missing things. Like, and this is a really important thing that.
And if someone like Mark can watch him play,
I would
and then
say the
spot
in-game
things that would help that sort of player learn,
but I would go as
and
far
have
as
the
things
the
like
experience
the
and the
balance
interface teach them. That's fucking great.
All that thing
That's really good.
We honestly haven't hit the fundamentals, and
So
this
teach
is why,
someone,
and
they'll learn and they'll figure it out.
That's why it's really important
just
between
the interface is so fucking bad, it's hard to learn.
That we're not like adding, and we can actually go, okay, like we need to just make the baseline actually the quality it needs to be. And it's really, really hard to do that when you're making what we just did for 050. Like you'll notice I don't want to say it's void of balance changes, of course, but it doesn't reach the standards of probably what people expect. And that's just because we were making all the new stuff. So hopefully now with everything, filled everything in, we actually get to go back and assess all of those fundamentals.
Exactly, SatPrep.
The passive tree.
Normal
Start with
people.
the really core things, the base skills, the base passive tree. They're like, you know, you don't get into too much of the nitty gritty straight away and all the multipliers and combo pieces that come together of what makes a build crazy. It's like really that baseline, life of monsters, damage of monsters, defenses of the player, and via the passive tree, base items. Like, I honestly think that the base items of like say weapons aren't in a good enough spot. There's just a bunch of implicits that a weapon has an implicit and its damage is penalized, and the implicit is just trash.
Shit.
And it's like, why is this even here? It's not
it's
not fun. It's just a bad weapon to find. And there's still a bunch of that. And it's just like that's our lowest level thing. Like everything else is built on top of that, and we haven't even got that base thing entirely perfect yet. So we have a bit of a plan, and we're going to go a bit feral with it.
Vague ideas of capitalism.
I really just want to make sure, we're addressing all of these fundamentals now that we've got, which hopefully will make, you know, I don't think Jonathan should have to change much. I think the balance is just wrong. And I think that he should be able to kill that boss and shit. And now he can, by the way, just to be clear, we did address that immediately.
Now he can, by the way.
But it's like, it seems like such an obvious thing. And it's like, how the hell have you not done this? But just because we've been producing so much content, like,
I feel like I was a bit mean to Mark, to Jonathan now. I think when I'm mean about rarity, I think I need to be mean to Mark.
We're making. It's really hard to actually go, okay, now let's get it to the right spot. And a lot of people compare it to a lot of people compare it to PoE1 and be like,
weapons.
The PoE1 tree has this and this and this.
I think the implicit. I think Mark's right. I think the implicit
like,
should be interesting and should enable.
You know, there was. I remember iterating on that for like 8 years personally.
Like having the cultists bow that do a certain amount of chaos damage and that's fine. Well, that's good.
We will be able to do it. We'll be able to do it pretty quickly. I'm not saying it's going to take 8 years.
I
know. We'll be able to get a hell of a way.
I know. This has been brutal.
That balance is ever perfect, as I like to say. But
yeah, but Jonathan doesn't know how to try, so bullying him is like fucking hell.
Of a patch,
Jesus wept. You shouldn't do that.
Not to say there won't still be stuff to fix around that, but that's part of that as well. To be able to actually go and look at, okay,
that actually is really good stat prep. If you scale the block as well, you get like 3 defensive layers as much.
What kind of character actually
turn your 1 in 400 to like a 1 in 500 and sort of stuff.
What are the mistakes that sort of good? What is the once you start layering it all on? Shouldn't be flaws. Be it the recommended gems, be it the base skill damage, be it itemization, passive tree, everything, and just getting all of that as refined as possible.
But it's just not necessary.
Which is exciting, by the way, because I find that stuff to be some of the more fun work. So it's kind of...
What's the... Go on, Gazi.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, listening to the both of you talking about this, it's obviously we're expecting this, but it really sounds like there's a ton of minor adjustments from the veterans players' perspective, but might be large changes for newer players' perspective that is coming to the 0.5 update that is not necessarily in the patch notes. Something I was really curious about to hear from the both of you was what portion of this update do you guys predict to like make the largest beneficial impact for the player's experience? Because we heard from Jonathan talking about his situation there. Are we talking about changes in that sense in the campaign playthrough, or are we talking about the Infinite Atlas? I just want to hear your thoughts on your prediction on the most beneficial impact for new player experience.
If you're talking about just for new players, I definitely think that it's going to be the sort of early in-game, like monster density, like things around there, like late campaign, early in-game monster density, things like, just... I mean, we were just talking today. Okay, so here's another random example of a thing that we want to try and do. I hope it'll get an 050, but I think it's going to be a big deal, which is that, like, there's another one of those realizations of, like, I'm fighting a rare, it's got, like, a shit ton of mods on it. And I'm like, if I just stop, like, fighting for a second here, just, like, put on God mode and just watch this rare. Like, I'm just going to look at what this rare is doing right now.
Like, I don't have God mode.
If I'm not killing it. And there is a fucking endless amount of bullshit spewing forth.
Endless amounts of bullshit!
Like, there actually is no capability to have any gameplay, like, counterplay to this thing beyond just tanking it, you know what I mean? I'm not really able to dodge it. There's so much crap coming out of this thing that, like, effectively my defenses have to be good enough, and there's really nothing else that I would be able to do about it.
Fucking endless amount of bullshit!
I believe it was an Essence monster that I was looking at the time, and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, we need to do something here, right? Like, it shouldn't be that when you get a bunch of these mods on there that so right now
that delivery was
there's all the different effects that can happen. So we call them daemons. They're like the things that that sit there and cast, like, like when you get like the circles of lightning damage or whatever the hell it is, just like various things like that trigger from a rare. Like every time you add one of those, it doesn't like slow down the rate of the others, and that's like a thing we want to do, effectively make it so that the more of those that go on the monster, like it doesn't. It's not that it like that it casts the same number of them as what it normally casts. Like it would have to increase, but it shouldn't increase where like you get 2 mods and now it's double the number of those effects, because otherwise there's just no ability to get any kind of counterplay with that. So we need some kind of thing that can control, like when lots of mods go on a rare, that it doesn't just turn into an absolute shit fest of like random spam. And so like this is another kind of one of those like fundamental things to identify. And like we'll try to get that info 050, but I think that one of those things is those are the kind of things that I really do think affect new players, because there is a level beyond which of like screen like covering crap that you just kind of
deliver swear words without missing a fucking beat.
Like, I'm not going to dodge this. I'm not going to actually try to.
They just sort of flow out.
Like, so now
in
my
a
build just has to
sentence.
be able
It's
to
quite.
Or that's it.
I say them when I struggle to think of other words.
Once again, another thing another one of those fundamentals like that.
This came up a while back. This came up a while back for essences more so, because again, it is a thing then veteran players are noticing a lot more, where they're like, okay, especially that Silent Caverns, I think it is unique map, right? And you're like, okay, there's now, this one monster with 6 essences, and we're like, what we should be doing is
the amount of times
implementing like a system where there's like, one or two of the daemons, as Jonathan explained it, one of the kind of more hidden skills that are outputting, the effects that are going on. They occur on a specific cooldown, and the more there are, the longer the cooldown is, and there's some whole system for it that we wanted to do. But like that was an example of where we checked the obviously the more extreme case, but then if you actually just come back to fundamental monster mods, like it's even a monster that only has 4 mods, for example, and 3 of them happen to be something where it's like just spamming a bunch of stuff. And the other thing is each of those just has their own independent cooldown. And so the monster, and let's say it happened to get 3 and each of those cooldowns is, say, 10 seconds. Well, it's going to do all 3 and then wait 10 seconds and then do all 3 and then wait 10 seconds. So that gets a different thing where at least you get the wait. But if it happened to be that, let's say there was a 5, a 10, and a 15-second cooldown, or some numbers like that, it's all of a sudden now it's like just skill, and then you're like, okay, well, when do I actually get to DPS? So it kind of varies a bit, but ultimately, at the end of the day, it's also just resulting in a bunch of just spam all over your screen.
You just can't see what's going on, man.
So much worse at the high end, like to the point where, and this is part of what contributes to the like, as you said, you just need to be able to survive it. And if you can't, and it results in these things where like, I died to something, there was effects everywhere, and now I'm dead. Something happened. But honestly, again, that's just because, okay, we're talking about 3 or 4 mods. Well, you can get more than that. So obviously, right? And so all of a sudden now you've just got this barrage of onslaught of emissive, flashbangs going on your screen, and hopefully you survive. So it is a problem, but it's one of those things where it's really easy to look at the extreme cases and just be like, obviously we need to address this. And when we come up with some plan, and then you kind of go, well, it is affecting only the top end, so is it as important as these other fundamentals?
Too stressful.
But then you actually go, okay, let's look at this problem from not the top end perspective, and you're like, oh yeah, it's definitely still a problem. And so that's a good one to get highlighted, and then you can address it, and it addresses. It turns out it just fixes it for everyone. So yeah, we're hoping to even do something about that this week specifically.
On the same topic of that is like, here's another one I just happened to notice recently as well, which was that like I was playing some maps and I realized, hang on a minute, I feel like in the last 10 maps I've run, every single one of them had a mod in it that caused curses to be going off. Every single one of them.
Yeah.
I'm like, so that just means that your entire experience of the map, even when you're not fighting anything, there's just like circles appearing.
Bullshit that you need to
on the screen all the time. I'm like, and so I asked someone about this, and they were like, oh yeah, the reason for that is because there's a bunch of curse mods, but because they're all weighted the same as all the normal mods, it means that like the overall weighting of just any curse, if you look at it that way, is very high. And so the answer is just divide all the weightings of those curse mods so they're just less common, right? So now you don't have that thing, because like I feel like it shouldn't necessarily be that every freaking map you're running has got these circles appearing like that. So like there's just stuff like that. Like it's just there's just lots of little things like that. But
if they've cut the number of curses that are occurring by like 4 times, that's massive. I hate curse maps.
About it. And like when you're going in with the mindset of like, okay, like what are we doing to address the spam? Like when you're actually playing, you have to, and it takes a little while of appreciating it as you go through of like, what is actually the cause here? Yeah, like there's a lot of things we can still do. So yeah, that is a bit of a kick that we're on right now, is the like try to reduce the spam a little bit, ideally without sort of hurting the top end cases where people want to make sure that they're getting the monster hits that they need and all that kind of stuff like that. But I think that part of what also brought it to a head a little bit is that because the tree adds so much now, we have to be really careful.
For a wee, you need to get beer.
With the stuff, because it can get out of hand pretty quick. So that's something that we have to care a lot about.
We've definitely had to reevaluate what our base levels are versus what our, without like really going, okay, we just want everything to be, meh. Like we still want the excitement. You still want the thing where you can spec into all these things and create these crazy situations to happen. But yeah, with the tree being a lot larger and the Atlas Master system and all of this, it's like, we've certainly had to reevaluate the base simply for that, just from a like, okay, if we had just kept the same base and added all that, then all the investment would end up having to be quite low, because you just can't have every single map being an absolute clusterfuck. So, reevaluating all of that is also helping, honestly, with that just onboarding into maps thing anyway, where you're not just like overwhelmed with like 8 things going on that you haven't even seen before. You're like, what the fuck is even happening? Like, what's this purple thing here, and this blue thing here, and this green thing here, and this yellow thing here, and you're like, you don't even know what they are because nothing's told you what they are necessarily. So, I think going back to your actual question you had, which was the onboarding for new players, even though it's weird to think about new players in the case of Endgame, but our hope is that they can get there. What I did see, and I've seen this with personal friends, even my brother and stuff, they got to Endgame. He's like, I don't know, I just ran a couple maps and now I'm done. I guess I've I'm finished. So I'm hoping that they get there and stick it out and actually have that goal. Don't get overwhelmed. Don't run into immediately run into brick walls, and can actually play through and finish the campaign. Finish the end game as if it was just a continuance of the campaign. Honestly, like there kind of doesn't necessarily need to be a like break in the story necessarily so much where they can just be perceived as the same thing ultimately.
It's funny that you mentioned that because one of the topics we wanted to cover in this interview was about the Fortress and Endgame Atlas. And one of the initial questions we had there is to talk about the Fortress. You talk about onboarding people to the Endgame, right? And the Fortress itself, it has its areas inside the Fortress. They're sort of pre-juiced, and the Fortress is required for gaining your Atlas passive points, and also has some pinnacle bosses in it. Like, is this area what you envision players to head to first when they go out there, clear it out in its entirety, then go out to engage with league mechanics? Or is it intended to be your sort of first?
A lot of people do that kind of go hard. Speedrunners nearly all do that.
And the follow-up
Angormus, Guy That Dies.
An extension of the campaign to
they spend 90% of their time in the campaign
before people are expected to go to the Infinite Atlas.
Well, there's a few things going on here. So number one is I do expect that the Fortress is going to be the first in-game system that people engage with. It doesn't have to be, but I think that it will be. And that's seen by the fact that it's the first quest we give you, and it's kind of like the largest visible thing going on, right? So the very first thing you get is like there's a tower that pops out, and Duyani's like, hey, go do that. And that's like 3 maps away, right? So like it's guaranteed the tower is the 3rd map that you do, assuming that you head in that direction.
We'll keep practicing, man.
And then
it's
like
get that to
3 or maybe 4 maps more than that until you get into the Fortress. So like it's pretty, you know, like we're onboarding you pretty easily into that thing. So I suspect a lot of people do that.
At the same time, I do
juicing is definitely a nice thing because so the nice thing we get to do there, by the way, is that so in the Fortress, like it's not most of the maps, but it's like a very large percentage of them, because you can pick where you go. Like you effectively get like pre-juiced maps, but the nice thing is it's like one mechanic at a time.
Some micro
like when you get those mechanics
are not
in those
available
maps,
on a controller
like, because it's at the start.
When using multiple skills and directional skills that have backflips and things, very hard on the controller.
You get to experience the feeling of like, okay, here's what it would be like if I like had a bunch of wisps, and here's what it would be like if I had a bunch of strongbox and that kind of thing. You get to sort of experience that right away.
More than that.
Yeah, as I said, one at a time.
Micro.
And then as you go through the Fortress, you're obviously adding more of that content that once you've experienced it to your maps, you get to kind of like juice it more yourself. And so by the time you're done with the Fortress, you know, you're going to have like, you know, the not necessarily, probably not the full Atlas tree, because I don't think that you're going to just grind out every single map in the Fortress. I expect the much more likely situation is that you pick a path through the Fortress that gets you to the quest goals. You allocate, I don't know what it would be. Like, what do you reckon the percentage of the tree you'd probably allocate, Mark? And by the time you've leveled up and everything, it might be like a third of it or something, like maybe. Like something along those lines, you probably get like a third of it as you make your way to the, you know, maybe half. It sort of depends on like how long it's taking you to get up those map tiers and so on. But I'd say a third of it.
Half was more what I was thinking for sure.
Yeah. But like sort of half to a third, the third half, something like that of the tree. Before we get to that. And so by the time you got to that point, you know, you're sort of ready to be able to go and do all the other objectives. And I sort of suspect that that'll be like most people's general experience. And that's not supposed to take too long. It's supposed to be, you know, like a relatively like achievable goal. And yes, it is effectively tutorializing the endgame as well, because then you've got the quest version of the pinnacle. You know, like you know, the which is hard. Don't get me wrong, it's not easy, but like definitely not.
It'll sound like they've made things easier.
It's like, you know, something that you would expect someone to be able to do.
It'll be a good time.
If they're, you know, taking it somewhat reasonably.
And the hamsters stay up.
So yeah, like it is something that probably would expect to do. Now you can go and do the other quest lines if you want, but the one thing you will run into is that you're not allowed to do, I believe, the lieutenants, whatever this kind of like the pre-pinnacle is before you've got to map tier. It's 11, I believe. Mark, is that correct? Like map tier 11 is what you have to do.
Generally 14.
14. Sorry, 14.
Oh shit!
So you map to 14. So what that means is that if you do that as your first one, and you're a new player, so you don't know how to go through the tiers quickly, it's possible that you'd run into that bottleneck at some point if you just did one of the league trees first, and then have to sort of tear up before you went on. Whereas if you do the Fortress first, you're obviously going to be T16, or T15 probably, I suppose, if you're not doing the corrupted stuff, and so therefore you're going to have the maps that you need to be able to do those other ones like all the way to the end very quickly.
Yeah, it's their winter.
So yeah, I'd expect most people to do Fortress first.
Probably they're probably fattened up for winter. People do that.
For that T14
humans go through that cycle.
It'll come up and people might be like, "Why is this
it's their winter
gated behind a level? Like, why is it? Like, let me just do it." Is that we don't want the pinnacles. So obviously, there's a quest version and a non-quest version, right? The non-quest is harder. That's what you do afterwards. Drops better loot, right? That's the quest version, where it still drops loot. It's
quite possibly Colonel Go Hard. I noticed that towards the end of last league.
It is still a fixed level, and we wanted all the pinnacles to be
separate
at the pinnacle, right? Around tier 15, tier 16 difficulty, right? So you'll generally find they're about level 79, whereas the farm ones are like level 82. Now that doesn't mean a lot, but it's just, obviously item level of drops, and then obviously, whatever custom difficulty we want to do at those level thresholds. However, because often the pinnacles are not using traditional waystones, as in they don't have a tier on them. We have to gate the thing directly before them to be the difficulty that is the closest. Like, for example, let's say you got to tier 11 maps, you killed, say, Tulanesh, and then you got the Twisted Domain key, and so tier 11, and then you're jumping to level 79. Like, the difficulty jump is just going to be insane. And so it's like, well, I'd rather gate that boss to be literally just one step before the Twisted Domain, so that if you do it, you earn the key, you're probably ready to do it. Like, you don't have to like now go and waste your key and go, okay, that was impossible. What the hell was that? So people will often probably run into this block, but it is important that when they kill those penultimate bosses, that they are probably ready then. That is their proving grounds to say, okay, you can try the pinnacle now. And if we have those be too early, people are just going to be like, okay, what the hell? This difficulty jump is out of control. And then they'll fail. They have to go do a bunch of stuff. It'll feel bad. Quitting moment. They might just be like, nice balance, thumbs down. It's... I think that the lesser evil is definitely to have the gate. There are a few other ways to do this, but the other thing I didn't want to do is have it that let's say you did them in a different order. Like let's say it was tier 11, as we said, the restriction on Tulanesh. If you then, and let's say Twisted Domain was T12 difficulty instead of the 14 and 15 that I have them at. If you did it breach first and did it naturally, it'd probably feel fine. Now, if you go and do the whole fortress, you get all the way to T15, you kill the Arbiter, you do that whole quest line, and then you go and do breach. Well, now it's just tier 11 and tier 12, and you're going to be like, well, that was a joke. What the hell was that? And so that also doesn't feel good. And then the farm version's obviously high level. And so I think that's also bad as well. So it's just giving a bit of background as to why I want to make sure the pen ultimates are T14 and the ultimates are around, and the quest ultimates are 15, and then the
just to get you to that proper end game, where end game
I understand there's a few different things you can do here. You can be like, as you complete each, the other ones level up, and as there's all this kind of stuff. But I don't really love doing that. I think it's quite fun to just get to that boss. You get to literally the pre-capstone of the league, and it's like, all right, now get to tier 14, and you're like, oh shit, yeah, I'm going to go do that. When I come back, I'm going to come back and mess it up and hopefully get my loot, or whatever, or just fail, whatever the case is. But hopefully you get to kill it and get your loot. But yeah, I don't know. It worked out, but yeah, I understand. It's been a bit of a conversation in the office where people have wanted it one way over the other and been a bit back and forth about it, and had the levels based on the distance from the start and all kinds. And I just think that what we've landed on is certainly the best situation we have of all. But I suspect it's a question that's going to come up. So I thought clarifying it might be a little bit useful.
Did you guys do any changes to the earlier levels of the waystones? Because I know in one video, there was a video I was watching where a guy was mapping out and saying the earlier tiers of the waystones are higher levels now, etc. How do you feel about the earlier level curve of the waystones? Has that been fundamentally changed though, or are you guys okay with the positioning of it currently?
As in level 65, then 6 and 7, then 8?
Yeah, exactly.
Currently the same.
There were some changes to monster effectiveness.
Yeah, big ones.
That happened.
I mean, again, we've done balance all over the place. So it's what do the numbers even mean is kind of a question in itself, in general, I think a common problem people had is that the difficulty difference between the maps wasn't significant enough.
Our bodies are ready.
You just kind of just climb and climb and climb.
Right.
Yeah. We've done some changes around that. We went very extreme at the start of this development cycle, and we've now come back on it substantially.
All over me.
Not to say there isn't still a larger difference than what's currently on live. So yes, the difference between a T1 and 15 on live is less than the difference that will be in 050. It gets harder as you climb the progression. That being said, a lot of that was also done through because we've changed what the map mods give as well. So they have I can't remember what the exact bonuses are now, but for example, a subset of the mods do grant effectiveness, so quantum life and XP. And then, what we tried to do is that every single mod on a map was something you actually were like, oh yeah, okay, this is rewarding. I want this. Whereas there were some that were a bit hit and miss before, for sure. So we've tried to do that, and so we've changed some of the outcomes given. But just now, by rolling mods on maps, you'll notice that things, because of the effectiveness, for example, that monsters can get harder, but at least then you can kind of control it, which is better than just.
Well, yeah, we've moved the brick wall from here to here. So it being halved is
not a great change that we made, but yeah, I would say it's not too far off what it was at a baseline level. But again, that's where also then ideally...
I have no idea what drops. I've got no fucking idea.
Difficulty curves like that, it's something that's in the player's control, not like, otherwise again, like let's say Jonathan's build here, he's like, okay, I'm struggling in very early waystones, but and I raised the question to him, I was like, okay, but let's say we did this change here. It sounds good. You'll get to your tier 3 or 4, maybe 5 maps, but then you're going to hit a wall there as well, right? So it's about making sure that we do changes that aren't just like, okay, you're going to quit 30 minutes later instead. You'll quit the next day instead of the day before. Technically, that's better, I guess, but it's still bad. So, but it's I know that there's a lot of people who really wanted it to be that the difference in difficulty in tiers is quite significant. There's a bunch of people who don't necessarily. We tried it; it wasn't good. So.
That's why no one knows how it works.
Having it more as you get more of the tree, more multi-choice, you get the Atlas Masters, and that being fully agency controlled is definitely a better world than just inherently every map every tier is significantly harder than the last, or some sort of more extreme jump like that. So anyway, let's try it and test it.
Let's talk about the Atlas Masters then, because I'm very curious. There's 2 fundamental changes with the Atlas tree currently coming up in 0.5, one of which is you can basically max out the entirety of the tree. I know there's notables you can change, and that's kind of how you're doing the player agency on the Atlas tree. But also the Atlas Masters are the other fundamentally new, and you call them ascendancy classes for the Atlas tree, which is kind of an interesting way to put it. So what are the Masters enabling you to be able to do that was something you couldn't be able to put on the tree? Why Atlas Masters, and what is that going to help you with?
So there's a couple of things going on here. So I think one of the things that's really important to talk about with that is that why the old tree was a concern. So effectively, the old tree wasn't allowed to have anything on it that could affect content that you could see that you were going to get in advance. And the reason for that is because you'd just respec before you do it, and then be having to respec all the time. And we wanted to get to a situation where, you didn't feel like you needed to make those changes all the time. The only way we'd had to do it before was to effectively water down the bonuses we could give. And then originally what we were saying is that we want to have it so that the customization that there is doesn't require so much cognitive overload in terms of doing it. And what I mean by that is okay, so
it's just
the important thing to respec was
click,
various more sort of keystone-y type things. There's a bunch of other bonuses, but the stuff that kind of defines what is interesting about what you're doing is really more about those keystone things. So if we can bring all those key choices together in one place, it's going to feel a lot less threatening when you want to change them. And so now you've got effectively a nice little menu on the side of the thing of what one of these do you want to be playing under. And then after that, we were okay,
that's the experience.
We want to do some kind of thing where, in PoE 1, you've got the 3 specs that you can do for your Atlas tree.
The stuff
I never kind of liked that because, I don't know, how do I just describe why I don't sort of like that kind of stuff? It's it feels like it's adding even more complexity. So then I was okay, is there a way that we can get the idea of having
I
three
hope so,
specs,
too,
but
as well,
like not
Victor.
have it feel like something that feels like it adds complexity, but instead make it feel thematic and cool. And so then the idea of like, well, what if each spec was like a character, and they're like, you know, like this is the stuff that they're, you know, they're doing, and then it feels like when you're changing between them that you've got it's just a more interesting and sort of more thematic way of achieving something like that. And I think that's actually worked pretty well. And then, funnily enough, it kind of ended up feeling a little bit like what we have
makes more sense.
in PoE 1. I can't remember what the name of it's called, but you know, the way you can select
when you would want them.
A thing when you run a map.
That's a good sort of
I think
good thinking from them as a development team.
So
because that sort of interaction is important.
It just has a sort of a cool feel to it, like
how much of an impediment it feels to the interface you're in.
It's
like doing your job.
You're allowed to select between these things like that. Then we can have bonuses that you would want to change between before you run a map, because you can effectively just have, okay, this is when I'm running this content, this is the master that I'm using. When I'm running that content, this is the master that I'm using. And you kind of like decide those kind of choices up front, and then it's just like one click to change between them.
Yeah, I mean, from a game,
so
it's
now
more
then,
immersiveness, but it's
put all those
fundamentally the
bonuses
same
like,
thing, which is the lack of impediment
and even
to
in this
your
case,
own
we've been
ability to
experimenting with having bonuses that are
agency
going
and
to apply to the league that we're actually running right now. So there are bonuses that apply to the Runes of Alder on there. And like we feel like it's okay to do that when it's like the sort of separate thing that's on the these masters, where we didn't feel like we were comfortable doing that on the Atlas tree before. So yeah, I don't know. Like it's just a different concept of delivery that allows us to do a certain thing. And in this case, the particular thing that it is like content that responds to like things that respond to things that you can see that are going to happen. So like I see that I'm going to run this type of map, it's going to have this type of content, and I select this master, which is going to synergize with that.
Hunting your brother?
The league mechanic trees. When I was watching the review, one bit of confusion. Like I know, I at least myself was confused about this, so I was hoping some clarity. Are you actually able to max out the entirety of each one of the league trees? Okay, so what was the decision behind we wanted to make where you max out the trees and entirely also in the league mechanic portion of it?
So it's the same exact argument for the regular tree, right? Like it's we just think that it's important that for the types of bonuses that we can do. Sure. It means that we can do a bonus like, now when you kill this boss, it's going to have these additional, these additional features or drops, something like that. There's like stuff like that you just wouldn't be able to do normally, because you'd be like, okay, well, I'm not going to have that allocated when I'm doing this content because I instead have this other thing. If you allocate all of them, we could just do those types of bonuses, and I think it just makes them more interesting. So then once again, you've got the multi-choice nodes that are there to control the like, do I want to have this league be like this or like that? The multi-choice nodes effectively serve as those decision points.
For example, there, by the way, like you can have a node that specifically enhances the difficulty and or drops of the pinnacle boss for that league. You can have one that applies to the lieutenant. You can have, and so yes, before obviously you'd have to then go, I'm about to do the pinnacle boss, or you save up a bunch of keys and then you allocate those nodes and run them all, and then you unallocate those nodes when you go back to farming. So even with that, but the different variety of bonuses we're allowed to have invested into, it feels pretty good. It feels pretty awesome where you can be like, okay, I mean, there is the sense of ordering as you're like filling in the tree where you're like, okay, am I going to invest in this now or this later? Obviously, you're generally not going to invest in the pinnacle boss when you're like, first starting out. Not that it's at the start of the tree anyway. And so, you're generally going to want to spec into that stuff later regardless. And often in those cases, it's even blocked behind killing the pinnacle boss to start with, where it's like, okay, I can't allocate these until I kill the pinnacle for the first time. And then you can go and fill them in. And then when you do the farm, you can get the full loot. But it does create this just like really cool sense of progression of like, you're just like really evolving the loot, and there kind of isn't really a wrong choice. You're not like so scared about whether or not you're allocating A or B and whether or not it's going to be the right thing. And so you can just do it with a lot more freedom, a lot less like, fear of missing out of something. You can, but there's still a little bit of that.
Playing the game, you unlock the game being better.
Thinking about the choice.
That sounds like a good way, like a reward for just playing the game.
Feels so much less complicated, and
fine.
Something you can just
need to be way complex, man.
Of course,
character building's complex enough. The rest of it should be simple.
That raised a concern, and Jonathan mentioned it, where you then lose your build per se. And this is something we've talked about a little bit, but like this is where the Atlas Master circles in. It's like we need a system that is your build. But we need that to not be like 150 passives, it needs to be something quite clean like an Ascendancy class, hence kind of Atlas class. It's like, here's your end points you get on a quite small tree, and it's effectively like, okay, as he said, is boiling down the actual key decisions of how things behave, like meta level decisions, as opposed to just like X% increased something. It's just like a little bit of thing. It's like very game changing, like, enables a mechanic or disables another, gives you, as I said, things that reduce the number of revives you have, but increase the loot. And it's like, oh, do I want to risk that? It's like much, much more meaningful decisions all over the
yes, I want to risk that.
Because we can have multiple, because you can turn them off.
I am no pussy.
And because it's not like just giant tree of overwhelmingness, it's quite easy to go, okay, I understand what this is going to do. I understand I can try it. I can just turn it off. I don't need to have like multiple respec systems in order to do it, be it gold or some orb. And then I can just go and change it. And then maybe when I'm ready later, I'll turn it on again. But the other thing it allows, and I like this,
they should be making the game more for the average player.
Make new ones in the future.
They should.
If we have new characters and new Atlas masters, maybe we sub one out, add another. You never know how these things go. Maybe we do a thing where we move what's on class A onto class B.
You kind of need to appeal to the majority of people that are playing.
Combinations of the classes and what they specialize in.
It can still have depth and complexity and be built on really good systems. It's the interface and how you interact.
There's a lot more like flexibility here in terms of changing, removing,
interacting with it is like
doing a bunch of like cool stuff with just like creating new builds where you can create an entire new in-game meta just by mixing up those classes.
Kind of smart.
And you haven't had to change this entire 600-point Atlas passive tree kind of level grade thing where you're like, okay, like we can create so many new metas with like five changes.
As long as you give them the information they need.
Move this here, this here, this here, this here, and it's like, oh, entire in-game meta changed. Now, that's if we want to do that. We don't have to, but that can be a cool level of shake-up that keeps in-game feeling way fresher and whatnot, and we haven't had to add an entire new system to do it. So
yeah. I think like to me it sounds like they are.
And the player agency control of the
Path of Exile 1 is a very complex game because the interface is so bad, and it does feel like they've gone from an interface and usability first perspective when they're thinking about design choices in Path of Exile 2, which is what will open it up to a hell of a lot more people.
Market changes by targeting different types of drops. So like this is kind of in the topic of combating inflation, which has been mentioned, as well as price stabilization, where you can make those choices to, hey, this is lacking a supply in the market or whatever. And then you can choose to say, well, I'm going to do that farm. And then maybe the market changes. And now the next mechanic is going to be the most lucrative, if you will. And one of the questions is this one of your implementation to help combat your issues with rarity affecting currency and combating inflation in general? Or what's the take here?
It is 100% good at that, and go for it, Jonathan.
Well, I was going to basically say exactly that, right? Like we are trying to make it so that not only do you have things with the Atlas Masters, but you've also got things with the like which league you're focusing on. Like Ritual now being a much bigger source of uniques, for example. Yeah, if like you think, like we do want the idea that if things are in the market are off in a certain way, you feel like you can profit. Going to doing a different league, being a thing that matters more.
I think this is going to be huge for SSF.
So that wasn't explicit.
Actually, fucking huge for SSF.
Get that. Now I don't know whether that's going to have a huge effect or not, but it was
I'm
one
going
of the
to
things
target this league mechanic. My build is missing. I need to get a certain unique. I'm going to go run rituals for my next big step up in my SSF character.
Like to go further into that,
I think it's going to be fucking huge for SSF.
And I don't actually know if we made this. Game changing. One of my mini spreadsheets at some point. But like, let's just say ritual gives uniques.
SSF might be really fun.
And let's just say that there was a master who had somehow on a cult.
Hell yeah.
Or let's say a multi-choice, and it just said all the uniques offered by Ritual are now currency. And you could, with a click of a button, go click, all right, now I run Rituals and I'm just getting currency instead of uniques. Not to say that's necessarily a thing, I can't remember. But that's the level of thing where it's like, well, why not allow someone to change that? Now, one might be quantifiably better than the other, but that's somewhat market dependent and somewhat what you need for your gear, for your build, your character, and whatnot. But that is a level of a literal just...
Click
one button, click another button. Like if that's a thing you want to do,
be a game changer.
Now be able to do with this, where you can completely transform what you're farming by just the click of a button. And you can do that for many of the different leagues where you're like, okay, well,
that's really cool. That's really cool.
Or I want to specifically turn off A and B because C gives more currency. or I want to, I'm farming more bosses, so I want to make the bosses do this at the cost of something else. There's just all kinds of different things that you can do, and it's so much more approachable and simple, which is awesome. So I do expect that to happen, by the way. I do expect people to be, those who care about it, to be dynamically responding their builds to the economy, which I know a lot of people care about, myself included, right? That's what you're going to do. So what you have as a day 1 build might not be your day 2 build, might not be your day 3 build, entirely just due to I want to make the most amount of wealth from an economical standpoint, as opposed to necessarily like what's best for your character, because I understand getting wealthy is often what's best for your character. So, it will happen, almost certainly. And it's not going to take a whole bunch of gold and unshaping orbs and everything to do it. So that's good.
That's a good sign.
I know you guys put, I think it was in the patch notes, you guys said you put like exceptionos and fracturing orbs around the Atlas tree now as well, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exceptionals are something I'm very interested in.
That can be seen as taking something away, which obviously it is to some degree. But what it's also allowing you to do is be exposed to the fact it exists at all, which is kind of cool, because you can see the node, you can go, what the hell is that? And you can click the keyword and you're like, oh,
it's taken away negative rarity. That's what he's talking about. 100%. He couldn't be talking about anything else in that.
Now you know those mechanics exist because the tree tells you about them.
Because
about that angle.
You could play the whole game without ever seeing an exceptional drop if you had positive rarity.
Destructive play is like kind of one of my favorite.
100%. That's what they're talking about. 100%.
About the more focus on unique map bosses.
That's
it's not really
really big.
Strategy in 0.5.
Really
not
big.
Really going and targeting down, map bosses.
The current meta.
Is this something you
end game farming strats?
I've seen you've been given love to unique map bosses, farming strategy so far from what we've seen on the Atlas tree. So are you guys trying to make that into a potential strategy?
Should ideally be one.
It should to some degree, for sure. I mean, it depends if you think of it as the map boss versus, say, I would say an example is the summoning circles, being able to invest in that and do stuff with that is a way of getting more boss fights. I understand it's not the map boss. There are definitely ways to... Well, I guess you got the Overseer's Tablet, of course, which is a way of trying to be more boss-centric. I get it's not quite the same as
the
what
change to how you get
which
exceptionals, Danny. I think
like
negative rarity's been killed from the wording they're using around talking about negative rarity.
We're trying. There's a little bit of like.
Also, I called Mr. Nine Lives the Antichrist earlier.
Which is that.
That was also important.
Fighting multiple bosses at once is almost always worse than fighting one at a time. Like, you just lose that cohesion, you lose that combat feel. Now, it can be, you can have a twinned fight that is designed and they're a bit tag teamy and all that, but it often isn't good to just spawn a bunch of bosses on you.
Yeah, it sounds like they've killed it, yeah.
Because it just implies, it's one of that same thing again, where now you just have to have the defenses to not insta-die because you can't tell what's happening. So adding more bosses is something that
drop the price of Ventors massively, by the way.
And there are other ways to do that for sure. There's like a new type of delirium mirror that spawns a cloned boss from a map. So like, we want to definitely spawn more bosses, but I don't want to just spawn like 6 bosses in a room all together and just let you deal with it, right? It just, the combat just goes out the window.
Which we do have in the Rite of the Nameless, but in the Rite of the Nameless, we do offset them from spawning. Like, they don't all just suddenly spawn to start.
It's still
they spawn. They're not like one at a time, but they do stagger so that like you've got time to potentially kill the boss first.
Well, maybe not.
And then before the next one. And so
maybe exceptional.
Kind of like,
let's think about it logically for a second.
It's a tough fight, but you're not.
Exceptionals are now granted an increase in drop chance through the tree.
That being said, we have
if you want base exceptionals, you might want negative rarity to ensure you're dropping bases.
It is one of the things.
But actually, what you might see is an uptick in the amount of exceptional uniques.
Can just be a bit of a mess,
and things like that that drop. I don't know. It's still going to need testing, but it sounds very changed.
Thing to hopefully do between 050 and release, but yes, in that context, definitely staggering them is the play, because yes, what the hell is fighting 5 bosses in, not now just 5 bosses in the boss arena, you're talking about 5 bosses in this little circle with a bunch of rat tornadoes or something going around. You have no idea what's going on. So we'll try and make that as clean as possible.
All right, well, let's talk about the Runes of Aldor then, this season's league mechanic. Now, one of the major, sticking out points is obviously Runic Ward. I don't think many people saw that one coming. That was a bit of a surprise when I saw that one.
Other than being able to swap some league mechanics to prioritizing currency on drops.
Another defensive of some sort, and this time we're going to put it under life. Like, that's pretty unique. So how'd you come to that point?
I think it maybe started... Did it start with the skills first or the ward first? I can't actually remember which way around it was, but I feel like it might have been the skills. And we were talking about, like, what resource could we consume... I mean, it came together in one conversation, but I'm trying to remember exactly like which way around it was. But the skills and the runic ward were definitely designed together.
Yeah. Sap rep. Yeah, so negative rarity might not be dead, but it might not be what's increasing your chance of exceptionals.
You start with having it so that all of the skills are limited to weapon types, but then after that, you then break the rule and actually have the stuff that goes between the weapon types. And so we knew for a while we wanted to have, skills that can work across, so you can do some interesting stuff, and it like expands the universe of what builds are possible by quite a lot. So it was just a question of like, what can the restriction be so that it's like to make it so that there's something there that we can have that still sort of limits it. Because we were talking about how if we're doing skills like this, we didn't believe that something like mana would actually necessarily work for the type of skills that we want to do, where it's like sort of unrestricted like that. So then we're like, okay, if we've got another resource and like we don't really want to do life, and then we talked about like, do we make it like Vile skills where you've got like, the soul thing. We kind of didn't like that either. And I'm not sure exactly how we ended up with Runic Ward as the description, but I did like the fact that you've got something that's a hybrid defense and offense, and you can kind of scale that depending on what you do. That it ended up pretty well, and I'm enjoying playing with it as well. Like I do now, especially that there's a proper sound when you run into it, like you do know that it's saving you. So that's been pretty nice. So I'm a big fan of that. But ultimately, it came from the skills first, I believe, of like wanting to have a new resource that can power something like that.
You mentioned.
I honestly can't remember the conversation, but yeah, we started with like, well, Peri 1 has ward, and we're like talking about things that we can do that are of Kalgurin theming, and
this conversation's been going on for
we're not really satisfied with
75 minutes.
Like, fundamentally, it's very niche. It's very end game. It relies on all these unique mechanics to actually be good, and we need something that's fundamental to the campaign here. Something that can help everyone. And then we went through all, like, as we do.
Danny, was that your answer
to
of Bade's question?
And we went through many iterations and somehow ended up with what we have. And I think it is a significant upgrade over what, if we had just copy-pasted from what was in Peri 1 there, it would have not been anywhere near as good. So, it's quite satisfied with how that ended up. But it is always hard to forget these frantic conversations we have where we're just like, it's honestly like sometimes it's 30 minutes and you have like 500 iterations, and sometimes it's several hours and you have like 3 iterations. But easier to remember those ones. This was one of those short and fast, snappy, ruckus conversations for sure that ended up quite satisfying.
I am hoping that people find use for Runic Ward skills and like whatever build that they're doing. Like,
I hope so. You put 21 of them in the fucking game.
We've made quite a few. There's quite a few ones that are general enough as well, and a surprising number of minion ones. So Gazi will be happy to hear. But yeah, there's quite a bit going on there. The one I'm using on my current build is like honestly pretty fun. It looks simple. It's this thing where you called repulsion, where you it actually, I think when we did the live stream, it was a mark, but then we decided that we liked it as a curse better. So it's a curse that you apply to the monsters, and when they take a bit of damage, the curse gets removed and it does an explosion that pushes all the monsters away. And if you've got large monster density and you use it on a pack, like the monsters just get absolutely like when they just spread everywhere. Like honestly, it's quite fun. So I'm enjoying that one, and hopefully we don't need to nerf it because I'm enjoying it. But that's not what I'm using at the moment. But there's quite a lot of interesting ones.
Repulsion, put it in your build.
What I'm hoping is that there might be some like ward only builds even at in game, which I think will be interesting. Like we'll try and build one in the office, and maybe we'll even do a video on it to see if we can do like a ward only character, just to see how that goes. But the skills are primarily designed to be used as sort of like extra things that you can use on your.
You're not gonna nerf it.
One question about the league mechanic itself is I was re-listening to the Ziggy D Q&A while I was prepping, and Mark, you said that you thought you could get up to 22 rare mob modifiers potentially when paired with the expedition when doing the Rune of Aldor, right? So one of my questions for you is this kind of intended to be a strategy, sort of like, I don't know, like the Alva Temple, for instance, where it's like, okay, you can farm it for specifically what the drops are, but also like it can be a juicing mechanism where we're building this. So another way to play it is you do this actually just to juice the rare mobs themselves, and you're actually farming the mobs for the drops by adding more and more modifiers on.
That was the intention, yes, that both are a viable option. Now, the example I gave there is obviously the extreme.
Of course. Yeah.
Like, you're not going to have that happen every time, for sure. But I do want it to be a strategy for sure, especially now that the mods don't display all vertically down the screen. Those specific mods don't. There's just like a little line of runes under the monster's life.
Yeah, but it's gonna be really hard to know what's what.
But my hope is that
there needs to be a way for us to know what the fuck they all are.
Obviously, it's a relatively high-end strategy. Where once you are using logbooks and doing those grand expeditions, as we've called them. I don't know if there's an official name yet, but
I mean the data mine will do it.
Big old expeditions.
I want it in the interface.
That you are thinking, okay, on some of the remnants, you're like, okay, I want this chase reward, and on others where you're like, nah, I don't really care too much about this and that. Like, I think I can push the monsters to be more valuable than the things that are offered by them. That you're actually thinking, okay,
I'll tell you what,
I'm going to try and pick the highest variety of different runes possible. So that you can pass them along and try and get as many remnants as possible in the dynamite chain, and then you're just like, okay.
That would do. Because you only need to do it a couple of times to learn,
you're going to get every monster,
and then you'll start recognizing the things.
Pretty standard rewards. Second one, a bit more.
Give us the ability to try
more. It's like, how long can this dynamite chain go? How many remnants can I get in it? And then you get to the point where you're just like, all right, like, what am I actually even fighting now?
Colonel, go on. Yeah, I was talking to Twitch.
The hope is that there are still people, and again, because you can control what the mods are, what the rewards are, what the where the bombs are, the order of them. You can control the difficulty and rewards entirely as you please. One other thing we've changed with expeditions, by the way, which I think has been a significant upgrade, though a semi-controversial internal one, but
I think it's way better. I think
it's the same way, which is when you set a dynamite, you've got your dynamite chain. When the first one goes off, you have to kill a certain number of the monsters before the dynamite will continue. So what would often happen is that a fast build, when doing the logbooks were before, or expeditions, you could just kill as you're going. And what some people did is they'll just detonate the entire chain and then just like clear backwards almost. And what some people would do is just clear with it, but effectively now they're not even seeing the bombs. Like the bombs have all detonated off screen and they're just following the chain of minimap icons, clearing everything. Yeah. So now, like, it's like finish the encounter, next bomb goes off, finish the encounter, next bomb goes off, finish the encounter, next bomb. So you're actually following it, seeing the detonation,
not much point
seeing
in
what's
being
emerging,
explosive,
doing the fight, and you're following along. It just feels so much smoother. Though I know that there's
way more, by the way, like it's way better.
I agree. I think it's significantly better, but I know it immediately had people
don't feed your dog
but I
bad
like to just
meatballs,
detonate the whole thing and then just wait ages and then clear it all, going backwards or whatever. And I was like, wow, too bad, because the pros outweigh the cons here, IMO. But it is just significantly better.
When
tell your neighbors to stop feeding your dog bad meatballs.
10 runes instead of 8 in the patch notes, right? I think the reviewer said it was like 8 cap, and I think in the patch notes it said it was upwards of 10.
I think the reason for that is because there's a that might have been me accidentally disclosing a hidden thing that was supposed to be a hidden thing about how there's like a secret thing that you can get up to 10. I think I might have accidentally said that. Like, I think the normal limit is 8.
Okay.
There's like a bespoke 10 length and 9 length one. They're not like traditional. It's something that when you find, you're gonna be like, what the fuck is this kind of thing?
So there's like,
what the fuck is this kind of thing?
Probably just my bad, just like looking at the table and being like, okay, here's the maximum one being 10. Like, there's probably a few things I accidentally disclosed in the patch notes that were intended to be hidden, but it's fine. We'll just
that's right.
We'll see.
Those that go through them in detail.
Means we don't mind.
Yeah, spoil it here. How do you actually decide what you want to like leak or show in the review and what you don't? Like, I mean, that's got to be kind of a hard decision on, you want to keep enough hype going, right? Like, you want people to know some stuff's coming to be excited. Like, you got to tease Mageblood's coming. You can't tease what it is, right? So, like, how do you decide what makes the cut on the teaser and what you want to be, like, discovered, like, the hidden ascendancies, for instance, like you did with Abyssal Lich?
I don't know really. It's sort of hard to decide, but like there are certain things. Well, okay, like a random example is like not to like in the patch notes we said there are 3 barracks rings. People are going to make some assumptions about what that might mean. Like there are things like that that we're just like this. Like in some ways, like it can be obvious to people what the hidden things are, but that can be its own form of excitement because now you're going to be asking, well, how does that work? What do you do? And the way that does work is quite hidden. So we'll have to see whether people do that. I know Jeff actually was saying to me, he's like, as a player, I would never find this.
Really
so
nice.
hopefully people do actually end up discovering that. But all it takes is one, and then everyone will know. So there are secrets like that around. But yeah, I don't know. It just like we want to make sure that there's just enough things. Where it feels
I'm fucking gutted on missing the first 48 hours.
There's another whole system we didn't tell people about. Oh, I'm not even going to mention it. No, screw it. There's a whole bunch of I would say there's more like. I
I don't even know what he's talking about.
You do know what I'm talking about. The one that's the most ridiculous.
You have to tell me afterwards because obviously
the one that's the most ridiculous.
Why wait?
One that's the most
there are surprises that we want to have. But anyway, the thing is, we actually got enough hidden surprises on this patch that I feel like it's kind of okay to disclose a lot of things because there's quite a lot more of them. Like I feel like there's probably more hidden, random, weird stuff in this patch than we've probably ever done. I don't know if you'd agree with that, Matt, but it seems like it to me.
There's a lot of hidden random stuff in Fate of the Val.
I'm a huge advocate for pushing for and I just declare it at the start. I'm like, this is a thing no one's allowed to know about, and then I just hope that no one says anything.
It's easy to make mistakes though, because people don't know what stuff's going to be hidden, and so I might just randomly, blunder into things and like doing
there are other things where we're like, okay, but is it just going to get data mined in minute 0 anyway, and thus people? Mm-hmm. But then it's like, oh, maybe even that in itself is exciting because people don't know if what's data mined is actually enabled or not.
Yeah,
so you start adding bait and you put in little things that are just like, to intentionally make people feel the sense of mystery. So even if it is a thing that will get data mined, it doesn't necessarily mean it's there. If it's like,
that says a lot about some of the things that came up in the data
there are things
mines.
that are unintentional. Like I don't know if I don't know if the patch notes actually ended up with this, but all of the, for example, have we disclosed all of the hidden anoints? Like we expressed some. We're like, here's some that you get from the.
We've said about none of them. We just know how many there are.
Yeah, we didn't list them.
We went over some in the live stream and the presentation, and we went over. Here's a few examples, but then there's a whole bunch of
base level ones, man.
And so it's like I wouldn't say that's a secret. It's just like we want people to discover stuff. We want some people, and then there's the stuff like the actual secrets where we're just like, nah, good luck finding this, and we look forward to day 29 where someone figures this out or something. I want some sense of discovery over the league that's more than just like what is your build and what is the meta, like stuff that's actually in-world discoverable things. And yeah, sometimes it gets figured out in like an hour and you're like, oh well, whatever, still that's something. But
it's funny that you mentioned this with the bait thing, because I'm still looking at the data mine of Demon Magus and just waiting for something to happen. Like oh yeah, you're laughing. I'm sitting here with you balls.
No, it was a real thing. It's not.
It was.
It is a.
I did have a quick. Sorry.
It will be a real thing one day. It wasn't intended to.
Okay. I'm just trying not to go off on my notorious 15-minute minion rant here after Jonathan's comment earlier. I did have a curiosity about the league mechanic, which kind of weaves into the history of GGG. You guys have never shied away from trying out-of-the-box crazy things, roguelike things like Sekima, Sanctum, Auto Battlers, Todia, DM's favorite TD Blight. And we saw a meteor crashing on the Infinite Atlas. Utilizing the Infinite Atlas for the immersion of a meteor crashing down, it looks really cool. This small little snippet looks fantastic. And then the question I have for this is the idea of changing /and/or terraforming the Atlas something that you'll want to explore further in future updates or even leagues moving forward?
I definitely think that we're going to do more of that for sure. I mean, Doyani does have, as one of the Atlas Masters, does have a light terraforming ability. He's got the ability to change one biome into another.
Shit!
Like as part of his Atlas Master abilities.
Okay.
All right.
It's not completely controllable. You can't just make the whole world a desert, but like he does have some light ability to do that, and so there's things like that we can do.
What the fuck?
But Yeah, that actually matters quite a lot with the new Atlas tree, because the new Atlas tree has a bunch of things that are biome specific. Like this is a thing that happens in forest, and this is a thing that happens in deserts.
Oh God, the science! There's going to be so much science.
This biome behaves as this other biome in addition, and stuff like that, like with multi-choice stuff. And so there's like things like that going on that like make the biomes matter more. And then the ability for Diani to then be able to do some terraforming means that there's some strats there ideally that you could do with him. But yeah.
But I mean, yeah, like the imagination can immediately run wild. It's like, you know, less hypothetical.
Danny, you know, ready for some science. What we discussed
before, but it's like, okay, what
lots
does it
of
look
science
like for blight using for, you know, whatever blight ends up being in whatever world at some point in time. But like, okay, why not have actual blighted growths that appear on the Atlas and start growing and start like overrunning things? And why not have I don't know, things invading from here, and you know, you can do anything, like right? I mean, the imagination run wild.
We've got the breach domains appearing on the Atlas now. That's not like something that happens in front of you, but I mean, the fog bank thing and delirium, the delirious like area, that's kind of, this sort of feels a little bit like it as well, where like the Atlas gets transformed, you know, this event happens and that kind of stuff. Like, I mean, yeah, we're absolutely going to do. Like, we want every league to have more mechanics that happen on the Atlas. Like, that is an explicit thing of like every league should at least have something that interacts with the Atlas in a more
100%. Go over it.
Like, my mind went completely off when I saw that. I was like, they're probably going to do something like Catan League or Risk Play, where we're like pushing out settlements. Now we're playing RTS on the Infinite Atlas. That's where my mind went, and I was like, I can't wait for that.
Well, I do have a discussion I need to have with Mark, actually.
Which is, can we have an RTS league?
1.0 league ideas.
What a yes!
How we go with that.
Yes!
And you guys are adding so much, like, such scale.
RTS league, like, let's fucking go!
You're just all of the different changes to the Atlas Masters, like you're talking about the terraforming of. How much of
I don't know, Danny.
When you're creating something, you're
I wondered that straight away when I first turned it on, like an hour and a half ago.
Strong. And like, how much of this is like emergent gameplay? We're just going to put it out into the wild and like see what the players do with it.
Don't remember I've been drinking.
And then we'll do changes after. Like, what's the balance like?
It's been exciting.
Well, so we try to think of everything we
Jonathan's
can,
not very good at the game,
that there will be
and they've tailored it around his
so it's kind
average
of like,
player
it is really
experience.
Both of those things, but yeah, we do try as hard as we can to try and understand the interactions. But yes, there's just a lot of inherent risk the moment that you add all sorts of stuff like this, that you just do get something that you didn't expect. So yeah, you just assume that that's also going to happen.
Yeah, he did get told to get good by Mark, basically.
That's fair.
Yeah.
When it comes to like the progression, PoE 1 has had, you know, years, a decade plus of content and lessons learned and the progression of new leagues and trying things out. PoE 2 has only had, or quote unquote only, it's pretty fresh out the gate, but we have had 2 considered full-blown league releases. And with a 0.3 Abyss and 0.4 Alba, which we had recently, right? So I'm just curious, what kind of lessons have you guys learned from previous league releases, which has been helpful for the 0.5 one when it comes to PoE 2?
It's a tricky question because, like, I mean, we effectively learn these lessons every time. We've been doing it for so many years. The thing I guess we've been fighting. I was thinking about this earlier when we were talking, actually. It's like, in a way, we've been fighting this content war against PoE 1, where it's like, okay, it's like PoE 1 has all the stuff. We need to get PoE 2 to some kind of standard. And so that's been like why we've needed to, in these recent leagues, to like, you know, make something that feels very, very substantial. And like 050 hopefully wins the war there now, and it's like we've reached the point where, you know, we've reached the point where we can say that we're an ARPG that has enough content, and that's why we're now able to say, like, okay, before 1.0 we can focus more on like balance and all that sort of stuff, right? But it's like I honestly feel sorry for other ARPGs in some way, where like they have to, like, they in order to even get to the point of being able to say you're competitive, you have to first win this like war versus PoE 1 of like the amount of shit that's in a game. So you know, like, that's very hard. It's like, it's weird that how we also had to fight that, but yeah, like look, I feel like we do know how to make a league at this point, and all the things you need to have in it. Like, I mean, in fact, there's a very popular GDC talk that Chris made, which I still think is 100% correct in terms of the stuff that you need to have in a league to make it work. And ultimately, all of it with PoE 2, it's just, we need to just take that stuff, you know, to even better, and like get it to a polished level that is like higher than what we even needed to do before, and that kind of thing. But like, I mean, we know how to do it. We've done so many leagues at this point.
Honestly, the newest discovery, I would say, that is probably the hardest thing, is integrating it into the start of the game.
Yeah,
because the start of PoE 2, like, one thing that we didn't want to do, and I'd say PoE 1 has failed at this numerous times, is like all of a sudden you start the game and then you're just in some subzone that's in some other dimension, and you're like, what is happening? And it's like, okay, can you really say your game is like gothic horror if you're, you know, going into some person's memory or whatever? You know what I mean? Like, you're just, where am I? Like, what's even going on? It's like, it can get a bit techie, can get a bit sci-fi, can get a little bit like just out of there. So honestly, when we're thinking like, it's a big thing that comes up now where we were even thinking like, what the hell, like, can we really just have a bunch of Val stuff in the forest at the start?
That one was interesting. That one was interesting because we weren't going to do, like, when we designed that league originally, going into the past was the only thing. Like, we didn't have the past versus present temple, and the present day temple was a response to the fact that it felt immediately strange to walk out and be in Act 1, and then you're randomly traveling into the past in this Val thing. And so, like, we effectively had to make another version of like a bunch of those rooms in order to make that work and sort of still feel reasonable in Act 1. Yeah. And so that is something we never would have done. We never would have done that in PoE 1.
For sure, 100%. Because you had that full pristine temple with all the living Val and everything. But like right now, you encounter that at like second half of Act 3. It's a whole moment. If you just come out and you're fighting some basic zombies, a couple of crabs, and then you're just fighting like the full force of the like maximum power Val armies with you just, and then you go back and you're just in a forest fighting a wolf, and you're like, what the hell's going on here? You know? And so it was a stupid amount of work, because now we had to make undead versions of all the monsters. We had to make and you know, some of them needed, and as soon as the thing's undead, it can't use the same animation set. It has to look more death, like, you know, it's just a ton of work. And then all of a sudden, all the environment art, you have to have a destroyed version, a rundown version of every single room. It's like, and I'm like, why do we do this again? So Act 1 and 2 can, but it honestly makes so much of a difference than just like, you know, the world doesn't matter because I can just, you know, apparently
This is going to be something that in 1.0 is going to be a real challenge.
I don't like the time traveling thing. I think it feels really weird. The whole story feels weird as soon as you time travel to me.
It has to be in every area, and yet it also has to be that it doesn't feel out of place. Honestly, like, looking at it now, I'm like, the Runes of Elder actually does that pretty damn well, and it's almost a shame that we did that one here and not in 1.0, because that would have been a really good 1.0 league. But we have to effectively somehow pull that off again and make another league that feels like fine in Act 1 and but also fine in Endgame, that kind of thing. So
we have to do it 1,000 more times, right? So
I suppose so, but like, it's especially important for 1.0 in my opinion, just because you've got so many new players. But it's always going to have to be something that we consider that we never really thought about in PoE 1 when we were designing leagues. There, it was just
bring in the league mechanic.
You know, like, I guess the feeling always was that, like, you know, people have played this a bunch of times. Like, you know, like, it's okay to just have like a weird eldritch nightmare on the beach. It's fine. Like, we'll just live with it.
It's about 5 days now.
I mean, we have gotten better at it in PoE 1 as well over time, but it certainly had its moments where it was like, what the hell is going on this beach right now? You know, in the swamp with the rowers, and all of a sudden I'm in some other place. It's just
it's kind of funny. It's funny you mentioned it from that way. I actually never thought of it that way, but you're like, it does kind of make sense. Like, if you're not really familiar with PoE at all, when you play the game for the first time, and you're just like, what the hell is going on here? But speaking of league mechanics, talk a little bit about some of the ones that are reworked here. I got a few basic questions around that. So Breach. We'll talk about Breach for a moment here. The Genesis tree is coming. Big surprise. You know, they brought it back from PoE 1 goes to PoE 2, and it looks even bigger in PoE 2, notably only jewelry, right? But like, what kind of changes and lessons did you have to learn from the PoE 1 to implement it in PoE 2, and what did you know you wanted in it and what you didn't want?
A big decision we made, and this is like a big, honestly, philosophical thing that could have future ramifications that we end up having to go back on, because it wasn't too long ago where we had, you know, tile loot versus ground loot versus all that kind of stuff, you know, being a thing in PoE 1, and I'm sure it will come up again another 100 times. But you have this thing where, you know, should a league just give the same drops, aside from ignore the bosses and their unique drops, should a league's rewards just be the same as world drops? Should it be at its ceiling worse than world drops? Should it be, you know, there's all these different questions here. And the thing is that what we have decided here, and this is a an actual conscious decision we made, is that we wanted the rewards from leagues to be able to be better than world drops. And then thus comes to the important part that comes from it, which is it can't be better than everything. It has to be better than some sort of category for some sort of build. So it's not exclusively better. It's not like, oh, the thing that comes from here is 100% better than everything else. It's like for this build, for this build, for that build,
text was pretty good.
These types of characters or whatever are definitely going to want items from this kind of league. Now, I'm not saying it's easy to get. It's not like it's just trivial. It's not like it completely demeans the world drops. But we have made the decision here for sure that we wanted to say, and the Genesis tree was the big thing that we discussed when we were doing this, is like, well, do we want to be able to get things that can be better than what you can find in the world? And now, obviously, you still have to do the league in order to get the crafting material in order to create them. So you can't just fully bypass the itemization as is. But this is a decision we made. And as a result, yes, you get some pretty powerful stuff on the Genesis tree, and it's going to be pretty hard to get, but it is a thing you can do. But that is something you'll start seeing a little bit more from every league.
The specialist gear is going to be,
for example, the Runes of Elder, and let's say those core and all of that. I mean, probably for some builds, the socketables that come from it are going to be better than any you could probably find in world drops for certain gear or certain slots, right? There's these avenues for each, and hence why the Genesis tree is focused primarily on jewelry. Like it just straight up gives some of the best items, especially for casters and summoners in particular, that you'd be able to get compared to things that you could find in the world. And I understand some people are like, I don't want that. I just want the world drops to be better. And some people are like, no, that's the target farming. That's what I want to be able to get. That's what I want. I see that and I want to go for it. And there's a bit of a different crowd for both there. And sometimes it tilts too far where it's like, well, what's the point in doing anything but breaches?
Sure.
Just do the breach and move to the next area, do the breach, move to the next area. So there is a balance there for sure. And it can pretty easily over time tilt one way or the other. So we'll see what happens here, I guess. But the important thing Period 2 does that Period 1 hasn't been doing as well at, but is still something that we have a similar philosophy on, is that it should be that at least it's not for like every slot. Like if the Genesis tree could get best armor, best helmet, best gloves, best boots, best weapons, best everything. Well, what the hell why do anything else? At least now it's like, okay, I can possibly for some builds get the best amulet, probably for all builds actually get the best amulet. Sort of. And then for some, get the best
something silly there then.
Casters, and for that kind of example, then at least you're wanting to go, okay, here's why I want to do breach. I'll get these items when I have them good, and then I'll do this other league for this other slot, and do this other league for this other slot, and that's the 3 leagues you're farming. And then once you've got those gear, maybe you change to some other leagues. All the meanwhile trying to get Mage Bloods from World Drop and to do Headhunters and all of that, and your classics. So. Yeah, that is a decision we've actually made here. That is, I suspect, something we've never really necessarily talked about, at least not for years, about whether or not we want rewards from leagues to ultimately be better than world drops or more exclusive, or things that are ultimately exclusive to it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how it should be. There should be a reason to go back and do those leagues. They should introduce something. But the problem is then, like, eventually you run out of slots.
One
and
is,
then what do you do?
How do you educate the players on knowing if there's the best of each of these? How do you overcome the challenge of making sure that the education portion of the players, so they know that you can get the best of each one of these leagues from each? And the other portion is then, how do you handle the situation of things like Alkengo, like the most standard, I'm going to run a map. Like if every other league mechanic has the best of something, does that mean Alkengo has like the worst of everything? Like how do you handle both of these challenges?
From the educational standpoint, well, that's kind of in each's league's responsibility. You'll learn that over time, generally speaking. But that's where the things like, okay, the Genesis tree, you can read the nodes, you can see the helper text, you can see what kind of stuff you can get out of it. You might not know exactly what mods, what tiers, and what values, but honestly, I prefer that to be within the discovery axis anyway. What it does say is your rings can now be X, and you're like, okay, well, that, like, summon a
one way people might find that out now is because when they mouse over their item, there'll be a little build guide note there being like, you need to go to the Genesis tree and do this. So that could be one way that people will be finding it out.
True for sure. And so okay, so what the
great
other
idea,
thing
Jonathan.
is let's say
which league
enough
content
leagues
is best for helping you SSF
every
farm
slot.
this
So
particular
let's say,
item?
with there's 10 leagues and each league is best at one slot. Well, why do I need to do anything but you can't do all 10 leagues at once, which is good. But it is obviously still important that you know, for example, you still have to craft these items. You can't even if you could print the base type, you can't just infinitely now craft that item, right? So that's an important thing of needing to make sure that you're still acquiring all the core currency. You still have to do the content.
I'll probably rewatch this tomorrow morning while I'm cleaning the house.
But yeah, this is a risk. For sure, I can see a world where this is just okay, well, any ring or amulet that ever drops in the wild, sure, it can be okay, it can be good, but it can't be the best. That is the consequence of this. It is a 100% the actual consequence. And I do believe they can generally be good enough. And as long as that we're niche enough with what the leagues are doing, that it won't be too problematic. But shit, it's easy to cross that line. And now, rest in peace, all rings on the floor. Just may as well filter them off and you'll never see them again. It is a fuck up that can occur. It is the actual risk. And as we add more and more content and it fills more and more of these voids, yes, you will reach that tipping point where now world drops suck. You will, almost certainly. It is.
But I suppose that's okay. If world drops are a stepping stone and an intermediary towards the end game, that's just progression.
Down the line, yep, probably will.
End of the world.
And there's always a way to address it. It's often just some one of those. Then okay, we've done this massive rebalance of this, retargeted this, and this. But it's obviously hard to know when we're not there yet because we don't have enough leagues covering enough slots to actually result in this problem yet. So still quite hypothetical, but I know I can see how it will occur.
Down the line in 2-3 years,
to whatever after release, it will just be okay, whoops, we did it. And now
I see that problem coming as well.
You filter out more and more items eventually. You run certain leagues, but at least there's the other benefit there, which is you can only run a certain number of leagues at a time. So at the very least, you'll be varying your gameplay. You're still going to be chasing for
they probably need
because
to
your tree juices everything.
Leagues.
You're not I'm only because that is another actual benefit, and it's something that suffers a little
Sunset
bit in PoE 1. So let's say on your core Atlas tree, you juice ultimatum.
They might have to.
That doesn't do anything to the rest of the map, generally speaking. I'm talking at a general level here. And so if you're fully invested in that league, or in League A, B, and C, you'll generally zone and do League A, B, and C, and then because the rest of the map isn't invested in at all, you could just say, I'm going to leave. Right? Because
but then
the value
when
of
you introduce a new league,
you
can cycle around the other leagues to other leagues that fit that slot.
Probably most of the time. You'll just go farm that thing over and over and over and over again. In PoE 2, because you can get full investment.
Yeah, or evolve it. Yeah.
Valuable as it's
something like that. Maybe that's what they might need to do. We'll see in 2
years.
Fully
invested, and those leagues are as valuable as it's going to be. And so, aside from tablet modifiers specifically being one of the only access, and I guess technically choice on the Atlas Masters, but those are quite broad, or can be quite broad. You're generally going to want to kill everything, clear everything, and you're not going to have this thing where some stuff is hyper-juiced and other things are just at base level worthlessness going on in the map.
Well, I don't know whether it was in the patch notes either, but it probably was. But do people know about the whole thing that we've done with tablets and the random content? I'm not sure if you, I don't know if you guys are aware about this. That's on the same vein, by the way. Which is that it was really important to us to make it so that you don't feel the need to juice everything, because this is coming back to that idea about reducing the amount of time that it takes to kind of get to the point where you can do infinite farm. There was this thing we wanted to say is that once you've filled all your tablet slots, you actually don't get random things appearing anymore, and that means that you don't feel the need to juice everything. You can juice the several mechanics that you want to do, or maybe it's just even one mechanic if you want to. You put all the tablets as being that thing, and then now no other random content doesn't appear, so you kind of don't have that. It's that same problem again of needing to making it so. Once again, you have the situation where if we had it so that to what Mark was saying, where a random breach could appear even though what you're doing is delirium, then it would mean that you've got content in the map you don't actually want to complete, and that's kind of the thing we're trying to avoid there. So you still can go the random route if you want by using like a radiator tablets and stuff like that. But if you want to, but if you're just focusing on a specific leagues,
I didn't mind having the breach added to my Delirium map with my 3 Delirium tablets in it.
You have to do the league mechanic.
That wasn't the problem.
Part of that league mechanic. And as someone who very much enjoys being a hideout warrior, crafting items in PoE1, just sitting in your hideout and just doing my crafting, it sounds to me like
I think I must have misheard. I think I must have.
For you to engage with this quote unquote best in slot items for XYZ builds, you have to engage with league mechanic. You have to quote unquote play the game. You can't just sit in your hideout. Is that an intentional design, or is that just a byproduct of the current design that you have right now?
I mean, you can still buy the items. So, I mean, at the end of the day, you can still. But is it intentional? I'd say most of the time it is intentional. I'm just trying to think of all the examples.
Is Hiveblood the only one like that, though, really?
Yeah, but I want to put in all 3 tablets and still get the random mechanic.
Yeah, I mean, but here's the thing: like, you can either always have a breach in there
if there was a breach in there, or
buy the thing
this
to do
or
the
that, whatever it might be,
or you can buy the thing at the end, right? Like, generally speaking, some element of, because we try and keep almost everything tradable.
Yeah, we'll see.
But Hiveblood in particular, yes.
Probably not
but then,
issue,
okay,
right?
You can't trade. Excess tribute offered for wanting to do Rite of the Nameless spams. You can't trade. What else can't you? Obviously, you can't trade breach biomes, right?
Right.
So there's like different things of stuff that can be traded and can't be traded. But generally speaking, we've tried to make sure, all the rewards can be. We've tried to make sure that pinnacle keys can be traded and stuff like that. But yeah, there's going to be some leagues where you won't just be able to entirely sit in your hideout to do the crafting. You'll have to just buy the product if that's what you're wanting to do. Like, if you don't want to breach, you're just going to have to buy the breach items. And if you do breach, well, then you get to sell it to those people, I guess. So win-win for everyone, ultimately, at the end of the day. Which is a cool thing, by the way, because it still comes down to that meta market shifting. And I actually think this isn't... I don't know how I ultimately feel about this.
Yeah.
Actually, we'll play it
I'll
in
put
an
it
actual
into
economy.
that and make sure there's a link to that as well.
But let's say minion meta. Let's say everyone's playing summoners. Let's say everyone's some sort of minion across the board. Let's just say, well, now am I going, well, I have to run breach.
Also be on Mobalytics as well.
Because the economy is such that it would be bad not to. And when I hear that, it's kind of like, well, now I'm not playing the content I want to be playing. But on the other hand, I'm getting rich. So, like, and maybe I am playing the contents I want to be playing. So there's a little bit of, like, I don't know. But then, like, all of a sudden, let's say a new build gets discovered and everyone's like, oh, this build uses this item comes from this. Everyone quickly change leagues what they're doing, which you can just do. Like, that's a thing you can do, aside from, again, there's some tablet farming you'd have to do and whatnot. But it's quite interesting. And generally speaking, this isn't, even though no one necessarily puts a label on it, that probably is how it naturally works. Like, even in PoE1, that's somewhat true to some degree, where there's certain things you want to get, but it's just probably on less of an extreme and less of a less intentional level for sure, whereas we're being a bit more intentional about it here. So I think it will have that impact, and I don't know, like, there's something I like to... I'm happy about that in theory, but I don't know if I'll be happy about that in practice. And so that's an interest. And again, I can't test that internally because there is no economy, right? Yeah. So none of us can. I mean, the 5 of us trading to one another is whatever. That doesn't matter, right? There's more than 5, but you get my point. And then the idea that I feel like I have to play Breach because of X, I have to play Delirium because of Y, or I have to play this or something like. Because I'm someone who cares about trade and cares about the wealth of my account, that could be something that actually makes me feel a bit sad at the end of the day, because at the end of the day I might want to just play the content I want to play for what the content offers, not for the economic value of it. And some people would just be like, play SSF, which, fair enough, I guess, but we'll see what happens. I don't know. I'm curious to see, now that we're being more intentional about certain builds being more powerful due to certain items from certain leagues, whether or not that's going to then result in a feeling of having to play content you wouldn't want to necessarily play, but now you feel like you have to. So we'll see. Maybe people ultimately
Yeah,
like
you
that.
can. But yeah, I've already theory crafted that.
No idea.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, you can.
speaking of really strong items,
Ancestry boost the bell.
Breach, the new Absent Amulet looks pretty good. Implicit is granting an aura.
With one of the ancestral boost things, instead of overabundance, you'll put 3 out at once.
Or is this a limited
Definitely
pool?
the play.
It should be every persistent buff skill that is on the uncut. Yes.
Every spirit reservation you can get for free on that amulet.
What?
Okay.
There are 3 amulets. There's one for 30 reservation costs, one for 60, one for hundreds. It's obviously harder to get the hundreds. And thus the 60s over the 30s and whatnot. And yes, but again, like there's a little bit of like good luck as well. You probably have to do a lot of farming to get what you want here. But this is what I was saying about when I was saying it does arguably offer the best item. It's just like the ease
free
of,
spirit fucking thing on it. No, that's
the
sexy
rare
as fuck.
equivalent of the mage blood of amulets, is like it is there, and I want that to be something you can get. Now, does that
Imagine
mean
a free
world drop
fucking
amulets are less
Trinity.
valuable? Well, yeah, it will. It 100% will indeed result in that. And the same way that the existence of a headhunter and a mage blood demean the value of rare belts.
They put a diminishing returns. They put a global cooldown on how quick you can ring the bell.
Rare belts are
that's how they
demeaned
stop
by
that.
the
That's
existence
not
of
changing.
very broad, very chase
Those still go
items.
fast.
And so there's
You
this
have 3 of them
interesting,
hitting
well, do
once
you want the
every
chase
0.3
items or not?
seconds
And,
each.
there's a bit of philosophy around that, and people tilt one side or the other, and so we're just effectively
Get 10
saying,
hits a second.
here's this freaking
You should be able to
OP
scale up
thing.
to about 2
It shouldn't be
million
hard to get, shouldn't be easy
20
to craft,
millisecond.
and it should be
my
something
head.
you want to chase, and there's a very clear path to it.
Yeah.
Not
Angry
necessarily an easy path.
Hopefully that delirium amulet is.
You got 3 down. It'll be 10 hits a second. The
Yeah,
0.3
which
second cooldown.
Also very hard
on
to
the
get
rings.
the right one. Yeah.
Plus you got the 3 slams. Also,
You can't
can blow them up with
reinstill
gathering
those
storm
at
for
all,
like
right? Like the
1000%
delirium
attack
amulet,
damage.
you get the 2
800%
instills and
attack
you
damage.
can't reinstall
So
one of them or something,
2600%.
right? Like
That's
you
like
get
Hammer
the
of
2
the
and you're
Gods.
locked.
I believe it
That's more
unintentionally
than Hammer
allowed
of the
you to
Gods.
replace one, but I did say it should.
With Gathering Storm as well.
You want to get as many as possible, and when you get the right one with the right 2 notables, you're just like, holy fucking thank God, I can go buy 6 or whatever. Like, it's just, you want that really, really like.
Fuck knows. Don't know. Really couldn't tell you.
Again, these are super rare.
Don't know what the uniques are going to
You'll
do.
get one that has 2.
I would
OP
imagine
instills and you'll still be
that
happy,
base
but,
breakers are
when
going
you
to do
get the
something
2 that are the
interesting,
2
but I
you
couldn't
actually
be
want,
sure. If stat stacking
I
is
want you to
looking really
really
good, then
be stoked.
Hand of Wisdom
To
in
the point
action
where
might be
every
good.
single time you
but
find this, you're like, holy shit, this
This is
could
the
be
percentage
it.
increase
This
that you get.
This is the, the 5
Early
mirror
game, you
drop
can get
here.
Hollow Palm from something that drops like really
on
early
the
game
topic of
for free.
Delirium
That's
and
going to be good
jewelry
through
for that matter,
campaign. Like
in
a whole bunch
Delirium,
of stuff.
we're now
Like,
getting some crafting additional.
probably end up
crafting
being some
options when
rare
it
with
comes
some
to
lines from
jewels.
fucking Abyss or
Not
something. to be
jewelries,
honest.
but jewels. And I mean, they're already
Don't know what.
let's call it a fairly strong place is where we'll put jewels, at least from most of our perspectives. So how do you guys feel about the balance of standard rare
probably
jewels
go.
versus something like Adorned, as well as time lost jewels in the current state of the game, or 0.5 rather?
You know what? Flicker with the bell on your back might actually be quite good because you'll be next to the thing when the bell goes
Well,
off.
the crafting for jewels was mostly that, like, the rationale behind adding that was ultimately, okay, like when you finish like a full sanctum, you end up with just like 45 jewels in your inventory if you take all the jewel chests, and you're like, okay, like 4 of them are okay, I guess. And it's just extreme item saturation just to get the good ones. And it's like, well, we're missing crafting here, really, right? We need something here to help guide it to be that they're okay, especially given that the jewel sockets are on kind of core pathways. You get them and then you're like, I don't even have anything to put in this for like a while. So at least now, and obviously you get some of these in the Act 4 in the campaign, you'll be able to, craft something that at least has 1 or maybe 2 useful stats for your character. If it had 1 by default and you add 1 that's decent. So that's just a win for like your more broad player base of just interacting with base jewels as a base level. In terms of the actual jewel balance, well, yeah, you'd kind of just end up with get all the jewel slots. Like there's so many really good end game unique jewels, as well as just like what you can do with the top end power of jewels, that like you end up with that thing with a lot of passive trees, just like I need to get every jewel slot, and then you end up with these kind of really shitty looking builds, honestly. Where they're
No,
just
they
not
look
even
amazing.
taking
What are you
anything.
talking
It's
about?
like, what's the cheapest stuff I can take along the way? But otherwise, it's just dual slot, dual slot, dual slot. There's definitely some problems here. How do I feel about it? I mean, I kind of in one end I'm like, well, it's like a very it can be a very satisfying,
the illusion skill's
advanced,
bait,
and honestly complex.
I'm not liking the look of the illusion skill at all. I'm not liking the look of any of the ability skills on
like
martial artist.
Dual fist.
I'm looking at the combo way of the mountain and way of the stone fist.
It's got the problem where
not looking at the bells, the ghost bells or anything. I think they all look shit.
Every character
might have some purpose in campaign
like
for
a very similar
resource
thing.
generation, but I don't think they look good.
I'm trying to think whether or not I ultimately enjoy it or not as a player.
I think they're flashy.
Probably less so.
I don't think they're where the power is.
It's ultimately not a good spot. Like I would say, if I had to not, I would, I don't like the idea that ultimately 95% of the passives on the tree don't matter at all, even though some of them don't matter anyway. Something we need to fix, but I don't like that it just ends up being that. But I do like I want to chase all the really chase unique jewels. So I don't know. Yeah, I'm kind of like a bit, hit and miss on it ultimately. I don't know. I'm curious what, a lot more people think about this kind of level of meta and itemization.
Good.
Because I see a lot of stuff that's quite, I hate jewels, or
jewels are cool,
keep
man.
These unique jewels, but not the rest. And then obviously timeless jewels are a whole different level of complexity. But yeah, I mean,
find a way to sell those
to,
so you can preview
the original
what they
point
do.
Here is we wanted to create a thing that's just improves the experience from the average player who's just engaging with a few jewel sockets, more than thinking about what it does for the end game. The end of the end game, I should say, kind of situation with character builds and itemization. So, because it buffs that as well.
I have not. No, I've been watching this the whole time it's been on. We'll have a quick look at
which is maybe not a good thing, but I think it's one of those things where that's a thing of do you think about every consequence? And it's like, well, kind of, but this is a good enough improvement for regular players, such that it was worth doing, and we weren't caught up too much on the consequences of what it means for later. But I would expect more changes later, much later, of course, some point later, to around this kind of dual meta. But I am also very curious to see what what everyone actually thinks about this. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Do you do you like? I guess the bigger question is, do you like that a lot of characters just end up wanting to as many dual slots as possible, and wanting to just have jewels everywhere? Because once you can craft, it's effectively a way of saying your passive tree goes from what we've said it is to what you want it to be, based on the fact that you can craft and put in there exactly what you want. And
yeah, that's good.
That sounds like a good pitch in isolation. But then when you play it, you kind of have this problem of I can't play my build until I've earned some large amount of money and done all this. Which,
no, but that shouldn't be how the build progression is, right? And anyone that's selling builds like that,
the builds in the middle of the league and the builds at the end of the league aren't the same thing.
They should progress. There should be a progression to that. You should say, right, I'm going to get
enough
a
jewels
socket,
have to be found and or created in order to create.
That you take off part of your tree to satisfy having more jewels, because now you've got them.
And I'm on the fence, honestly.
Okay.
That's just progression. That's how the game progresses, and that's how your character progresses.
Just about 2 hours. I know we were trying to keep it shorter, so we'll do the miscellaneous portion. We got a few questions here, and we have just a handful of patch notes related questions, and then we can kind of wrap up. So, to start for the miscellaneous portion, what's going on with Toda? Where's Toda currently at?
Well, we don't have it.
It's not here.
But I was really hoping that we would be able to get that the final Ascendancy trial when we did Act 4. We couldn't quite make it. We didn't have the time. We obviously couldn't fit it into this cycle in 050. So the question is whether or not, I suppose, whether it comes in 1.0. I think that's looking unlikely, to be honest. I don't think it's as important as some other things. But we'll see what we can do. It's kind of come down to whether or not we can somehow make what that does sort of merge with something else, I suspect. If there's quite a lot of work.
what we've been trying to do is, you're talking about the merging, is similar to how Runes of Elder is a kind of like expedition Kalguran thing. Yeah, to be whether or not like it's like kind of like, are we able to create a kind of Karui league that links into Tota somehow, and thus we get to double dip on the content.
Exactly. So if we're able to make a Karui themed league, then that will mean that we can effectively share some of the monster workload and like boss workload across both, which would then make it more viable to do alongside some of that other content. And with Runes of Elder, we got to effectively do an expedition upgrade at the same time as what we were doing as doing a league, and so that kind of like really helped with that. Like, and part of the reason we did that for this one is because we had so much other stuff going on with the other leagues as well that we figured making the core league be integrated somewhat with one of the leagues we're upgrading would help quite a lot. But yeah, maybe we might be able to squeeze Tota in if we were able to do a similar, if we were able to do a similar move like that. But otherwise it'll probably have to, if we can't do that, then it would have to wait for like a 1.1 or 1.2 kind of situation. Yeah.
It's quite interesting when we look at Tota, because when we made it for PoE 1, we were obviously still developing PoE 2, and we were like, oh, this will be cool to kind of be able to then use there later, and like, you know. And then now the quality bar has risen so much that when we then look at Tota in the context of PoE 2, like we thought all of the animations, the models, the art, the combat, everything, we'd be able to just like, we can just copy paste it, it'll be fine. And now when you go look at all those monsters and like just how long it's been and how much we've stepped up our game with stuff, it's like, these don't hold up at all. Like we have to, and so we had intended for it to be a way easier thing to just, you know, transplant from one to the other and like do some, you know, some polish, some touch ups. And now it's like, okay, we have to like effectively reanimate all of these. We have to, and so it's a ton, you know, you've got the multiple monsters of each tribe. You had the 10 chieftains, and let alone all the story moments and advancements we've done there. It's like, this is a shit ton of work where it's like, you know, I mean, it's the monster work of, it's probably like 75% of an act levels of equivalency of actual monster work. Like it's quite a lot. Obviously an act, a lot of it is the unification of the environment, the monsters, the narrative, etc. Whereas like obviously the part that is easier for Tota is it ultimately takes place in one arena with one back room, and thus it's faster to ultimately make. But in terms of just raw animation work and raw effects work for all the different skills, all the like scripting on the game design side, it is a ton of work. And so it's just been, again, when we were like, okay, is Tota being missing or the end game not having goals? Well, obviously the end game. And so when we're just coming up with the stuff, we're just going, what is the most important thing we need to do now? And Tota has not been it, given like it would be different if it didn't require a ton of work. Sure. We could probably chuck it in alongside one of these things, but it just somehow is not held up at all. And yeah, so if it weren't for just straight up being too much work, it would be there already. Like it just is an insane amount of actual work to do that is going to cost some pretty important stuff.
I appreciate the answer.
That makes sense.
Tota is just a personal favorite of mine because that was the league I joined, PoE actually. It's my first league ever with Tota.
Oh shit.
So I was curious. Go on, Gazi.
Well, I was just going to move on since we're kind of over the time already. I do apologize for that. Appreciate you guys sticking around. The next question I have is kind of a twofold question. I'm going to start with the first half of it,
That's
which is more about the design philosophy of unique items in PoE 2. PoE 1 has their version, and PoE 2 seems to be more build-defining options in terms of the unique items. So just a little short tidbit on what's the philosophy differences here? What's the focus?
Well, this changed a lot Sanctum. I remember that much. In recent time. By relatively recent, I mean the last couple of years. Because we had a bunch of uniques. We honestly believed at the start that we would be able to just take a bunch of PoE 1 uniques, modify them slightly, and put them in PoE 2. And that just completely 100% is not a thing we can do. Like, it's interesting because the combat systems in PoE 2, working the way they are, had a way larger influence on what's an acceptable unique than what we kind of expected. And it's honestly surprising because like you'd still think, oh yeah, why can we not, like, how is it not that there's just like 50 PoE 1 uniques we could just literally take and just put in PoE 2 if we wanted to? And then you go through each one and you're like, okay, well this one can't be for that reason, this one can't be for that reason, like the dominant stat would just totally have to change. Like it's weird how it sort of ended up that way. And so even also when we did add a pile of uniques in I can't remember what patch it was. It was like after 0.1. There was like a patch where we added a bunch of uniques, and those uniques, which were kind of like more on the PoE1 design scale, have not really held up either. And honestly, we're gonna have to go back and probably like remove and or change a bunch of those as well. Like, and this is like the sort of issue that we have in the kind of the sort of mid campaign kind of like, you know, like those uniques. They're just like really not holding up. And yeah, it's just funny how we just no longer have the ability. Like you kind of it feels like we've kind of got to have a skill or something on a PoE2 unique in order to make it sort of somewhat worthwhile. So yeah, like I don't know. I can even necessarily say exactly what it is particularly that's caused it to be that way, but for whatever reason, like when I look at a, you know, like a PO1 style designed unique at this point, it just does not rise to the level that we feel like you'd actually use it. And so yeah, I do wonder if one reason can be that I sort of suspect it's got something to do with the fact that in PoE1 build you tend to just optimize one skill and that's all you're doing. And so then, like in PoE2 context, we've got to care about more about that. Like the larger build, like there's a lot more going on with with a PoE2 build. At least that's the intention. So I sort of have this feeling it's got something to do with that, but I don't know if I can necessarily promote exactly why it is that we do feel like, yeah, a unique has to be just a significant amount more going on.
Well, that's fair. The follow. Sorry, go ahead.
I do got a thing there because like what we're making now, like a lot of what we've been showing with 050, like a lot of the stuff you've seen recently, this is kind of, this age of uniques is probably, it's not something we've done before really. Like all the uniques we're making are definitely the most expensive in terms of development costs that we've ever made. And as a result, they are more build defining. Now on the other end of the spectrum, you do have then the uniques that they kind of have their single special stat. It's kind of like 4 stats, one of them's a bit special, and it probably just has some sort of end game when combined with 6 other variables as a thing. And the problem with those is that they don't hit for like, most people when they get them, they're like, what the hell, why would I want that? And they just end up being these really like hyper niche end game things.
Yeah.
So that was a type of philosophy we had where they were effectively meant to be the puzzle piece, right? And you need multiple puzzle pieces in order to do the thing. Those uniques are generally failing when you find them, like generally speaking. And Jonathan did this exercise with me yesterday. We opened up that same character when we were looking at something. He showed me every unique. We went through all of them, and he just goes like, and he was like, why would I want this? Why would I need this? And I was explaining the like end game build used with them. And he's like, well, how the hell, like, okay. But then
what does it do right now?
23, you know, it's like, and so there is a problem with that. And so our new philosophy has just been like, let's try and make these way more for full of fantasy, because that's my biggest thing. Is just I want you to feel like, you know, and that you saw that with the grenade launcher thing, where it's just like I just want you to just be a freaking grenade man, like just run around spamming grenades. Come on, right? And then like the face breaker thing, obviously recently is pretty cool. You had the like the Raven and more summoner like delirium things. It's like, what if you were like Tangmazu himself? Like you had his powers. Like that's a cool fantasy where you can like create mirrors and illusory things and like bend reality, and like that's a cool fantasy to me. You know, so some can be more narratively driven, some can just be like fire grenades everywhere. And that stuff is resulting in way cooler things. Like way, way, way cooler. Also way, way, way more expensive to make. And so what I want to get better at yet, I think something we haven't nailed. So I think we've now got the puzzle piece side. We understand what that looks like. We understand what the other end, which is the more expensive fantasy fulfilling build defining thing looks like. What we don't have is the middle ground where there's that kind of not as expensive to develop, but pretty impactful, just not like ultra impactful ground that we still need to do as well. And I think once we've figured that out and we've got our understanding of all three, now you are going to see generally that middle ground and higher ground. You're probably not going to see as much of those original set, and we're going to have to go back and honestly raise the bar on all of those, or a lot of those at this point.
Yeah, they are getting upgrades to some extent due to the Calgar and like unique upgrading things, so that has helped. But there's still some of them that are a bit unsalvageable that we just need to
unsalvageable.
And by the way, there are unsalvageable uniques in PoE1 as well, right? It's just that there are 1,500 of them or some number, you know, and so they kind of get lost in the weeds, as opposed to right now the I would say, you know, there's a mid ground of them where they honestly you get it and you're like, I don't know why, I don't need it, you know. So there's to me, so I think what we've now made is like a lot of what we've made is so epic. I really love them. And like even talking about them and doing the videos, and there's so many more that haven't been, talked about or found yet, which is awesome that just keep going, and some secrets, and, the barracks and all of that coming in. So once we get, like now that we've got that rhythm and we're working that, we're just going to get more and more efficient with it. But I honestly think, and this is a thing that I've said to Jonathan as well, where I'm like, I think maybe our number one problem in the game, like after 050 comes out, now that if Endgame's in a good spot, now that we've sorted that and we have a good progression, we've got goals, my personal number one fault with what we haven't got doing well, especially because of our reputation, is that I think that our thing that we need to step up and do the better at, that we currently have done very poorly, is our unique items. Like I straight up think that we were meant to be the like weird epic in terms of ARPGs, like we're real good at items and itemization and uniques and crafting systems, and like I do believe that we generally are, and I don't think PoE 2 is an accurate reflection of what our capability should be. And so
damning it
now that we're delivering like real cool shit, I just want to go and just fix up all of them. And so that's another one of these like 055 but 050 and between 1.0, I want to be like, no, we have to save the uniques. Like
there's an 055 coming.
Now, obviously, different people have different levels of understanding of what's important to the game or the most important to the game. But like, I would be shocked if that's not on like most people's top 3, top 5 list of like things that are the most wrong with the game currently.
There's some uniques.
There's a lot of really good. There's a lot of really bad, and we can't have that. And I think the biggest thing, like to give a more specific example, on my big rant, a lot of our uniques are level 1 to 30, right? Level 1 to 30-ish. And a lot of them are the puzzle piece. Some are good, some are not good, some are whatever, hit and miss. And we've got this like now end game band that we've added, and we've added a bunch to the new pinnacles. We've got a bunch of things you can farm for the different leagues. What we don't have now, and I think this is a huge problem, is between level 30 and 60, there's kind of just nothing. There's kind of, honestly, it's like barely any start to drop. And I don't mean the level requirements, I mean when it can drop.
The annoying thing about that as well is that often, like when you're in that band, the things you're getting are the ones that are like level 1 to 30.
Yeah.
And so then what you end up feeling is like you get these and they just feel like they suck, because like if you'd put them on at level 20, they would have been fine.
No, it won't be
but you're putting them on at level 40 and it's kind of like, well, this is just garbage.
Well, unless there's some crazy stuff on gloves. There might be crazy stuff on gloves, though.
First, I'm going to decide if I'm dropping a unique, then I'll figure out what the unique is.
The martial artist.
It's like, I'm going to drop a unique. And then it's like, okay, let me go and find one. And it just so happens that every unique lower than that level is between 1 and 30. It means pretty much any unique drop between level 40 and 60 is just going to be bad.
Depends what the Stonefist lines are.
Niche cases aside, like some jewelry in some cases, but like that is a big problem where pretty much every unique you find in the current mid game, and thus ones leading into endgame, you have very few ones that allow you like get you set up for endgame. Like there are some, again, there is a few, but like it's nowhere near good enough. Nowhere near, not even in the right. We're like 20% of the way to good enough there. So, I don't often talk about what I consider to be, because generally when we're talking, we're obviously talking about, what's new, what's happening, but we don't really get to talk about what's like just fundamentally wrong. And I'm trying to be a little bit more transparent about some of that stuff, because that is the stuff we're aiming to fix and address and really try and salvage and save and get perfect between 050 and 1.0.
So yeah, we're hoping to fix that in one of the kind of economy resets that we'll do between 050 and 1.0.
Oh, they're going to do full economy resets.
Mid-game uniques.
On the topic of fixing things, my follow-up questions that I really was curious about this. I do first want to say that I'm a big fan of the Kalguran upping your uniques. This is the first time since PoE, 10, 12 years ago, I think, since I'm actually considering using Chober Chaber on a build. So, I mean, that's just because of the Kalguran upping. So that's funny. But my question is, regarding these build-defining uniques that you're adding, they're supposed to be interesting and impactful, giving you a skill, and people make builds around them, like the Grenade Man, for a prime example. A problem that I've seen being discussed a lot in the community has been that your main skill is supposed to have maximum sockets. It's a quote-unquote 6 sockets, but it's actually only 5 sockets, right, in PoE 2, with maximum sockets. And that is gated behind a level 20 version of the skill, which means it's going to cost more if the item is popular in the market. It's going to be rarer to find. It has a higher level requirement to drop and all those aspects. But there's already a power scaling difference between having a lower level skill of the skill itself and having a level 20 version in terms of what the benefits are. But the socket difference is so massive. So I was just curious if this is something you haven't thought of, or if it is a design you're happy with moving forward, that the max sockets is only on the level 20 versions.
We've discussed this many times.
I'm sure those patch notes will be updated.
Like it's come up, sorry, came up a lot. But I think for 050, and I'm hoping this gets done in time, and if not, it'll be shortly after. I was adding, like, as a kind of, like, in an ideal world, you'd just be able to either, well, at least you'd be able to just, like, okay, why not just allow using a perfect jeweler's orb on it, for example, and then just.
I was literally about to say that. Why can you not just jeweler's units?
But for now, you can't currently, but that will be the goal. But for now.
Is there a reason we can't allow that?
I think just time constraints, but I mean, feel free to look into it yourself. But
I mean, like, is it really that hard?
Feel free to look into it yourself. Go on, Mr. Pro.
I have no idea how it works in terms of the way the storage is. But there should be
exactly. I have absolutely no idea, so we can find that out. But
this is
we might be able to just do that, honestly. Like, it might just be possible.
Being that, if that doesn't work, because that is the ideal solution, at the very temporary, just like recipe thing added, where you can get a level 19 item, a level 20 uncut skill, and a perfect jeweler's orb, and then level 20 and 6-link the item. As a thing that we were just going to enable. That is
just doing the perfect jeweler thing. I feel like that would be. Surely we can make that happen. I don't know.
Well, follow up on that if you want. I have either way, multiple solutions. We will hopefully get one of them in time.
All right. Well, one last question.
I feel like they're about to have a technical debate about why it was long.
Cut out the patch notes related and some of the other ones here.
That would have been so good to listen to.
If you want, we can do just a couple rapid fires from chat, and then we can call it there. Sound good?
Sure.
Okay. So I want to follow up on something that Ziggy D asked. Very selfishly of me, admittedly. I'm playing the Spear Walker. I think it's the funnest looking thing, like, in the entire review that I saw. And it was about Tame Beast. And he mentioned that Tame Beast is like a level 9 cut gem. However, you can ascend and take the node that lets you capture beasts way before you can actually get to the cut gem. And you mentioned you might have a solution to this because it's a little bit of a noob trap, right? You take a node that you literally can't even use for like 10 levels or something. So I was wondering, when I saw the patch notes, it still said the gem starts at level 9. So I'm curious, do we have a solution for this coming to 0.5?
I thought we were going to just change it. I thought we were going to change it so that the uncut gem was lower level. I thought we were going to make it so that Tame Beast was just a lower level skill. But that's what the last I heard about it.
Certainly, the last discussion I had was that we were going to move it down to a lower level skill tier. So it could be the patch note was wrong. It could be something caused that to not happen. But
we agree.
That was definitely both Jonathan and I's understanding of the last of that conversation. So, but yes, we don't want that to be a problem. We will do something about it.
James just messaged me that Tame Beast is level 7 now. Patch notes missed it for some reason.
Perfect.
So he just messaged me that as we're talking. So that is the answer to that. So all good.
Well, unless Ghazi got a last question for him before we start the rapid fire and wrap it up here.
I was just wanted to.
There is a video out that we haven't watched yet.
Curiosity into your minds with basically the progression of what's going to happen between 0.5 and 1.0. We don't have to go too deep into it, but I'm curious because you, Mark, mentioned something that I keep referencing, and that is the plugging the holes. And I love that. I don't know why I love that comment, but plugging the holes and getting balance fixes and changes between 0.5 and 1.0. So my question, just to keep it short, is what are the things you want to prioritize in the updates between now and end of the year during this time frame?
So unique items, as Mark said, very big one. Any like a lot of skill balance, a lot of just like character balance. Adding some skills to existing classes where necessary, and or changing functionality of how they work for just like where we're going back and just making sure that everything that we already released in the in 010 is like in a better place, like just like all of that sort of stuff. Like that's big. Passive tree reworks, just like improvements there is like another big one. And I mean, I guess that's probably the main stuff, really. Like, well, I think, and then
it's a lot of the other chaos damage, getting that to be better, and thus acolyte.
Right.
ignite builds, burn, damage over time in general. Right. You know, just all these things that we've been, and honestly, it's come up in a few expansions, and it's just like, well, we just haven't got there yet, you know. And as I said, the passive tree, the base types, the you know, bloody hope the general. I mean, more replayability improvements certainly would also be good if there's any new one. Like, I've been really nice after people play through this and get a feel for it. To obviously identify the new evils, you know, what's bad, what's annoying. Like, now that people are going to be replaying through Act 4 for the third time, you know.
That's 100% a thing, right? So, like, is that, like, Act 4 didn't get a huge amount of changes in this patch, and I suspect part of the reason for that is because we haven't had the time. Like, there hasn't been a like resurgence of people saying I hate things in Act 4 because people haven't necessarily replayed it that much. So like I'm sure there'll be things in Act 4 that after this patch, don't like people will be like, oh, this is the horrible thing in Act 4 that I don't like.
Prison, I hate the prison.
So we'll see. We'll just have to see what that is at that point.
I'm not sure if they'll come sooner or later, but I'd like to do sooner. I'd like to, when we have our like next economy reset between, that we have either the third Ranger or the third Druid ascendancies come in. Like, it'd be nice for all existing classes to have all ascendancies before the full release. What else? You know, it's just the things, because they're just missing, right? It's just clearly like, okay, they're just missing the class. So as much of that as possible would be really, really ideal. And yeah, I don't say much else. I'm sure there.
Just wanted to verify. You said that economy resets. That just to verify that I heard you right. There will be economy resets leagues.
There will be economy resets. So there will effectively like there will be leagues. It's just that they're not going to be.
Yeah, they have changed it, Lee. Yeah.
They're not going to be the same as what of like a proper, you know, like it's not going to be an 06, what an 060 would be. And the reason why we say that is because we don't want to set the wrong expectation, and like it's not going to be like the giant mega content release in that way. Now there will be content, right? Because we're talking about adding uniques and skills and all that stuff, but it's not going to be quite the same, I think. Like I wouldn't expect necessarily to be like
more like second wind at the right time.
You know, like the on the other hand, we're generally pretty good at taking little and turning it into a lot. So I guess we'll see what we end up with there. But I mean, the thing we've referenced before is like Legacy or Phyrexia type of stuff, right? Where you just take some existing stuff, you jumble it around, you like come up with a few things. Like hell, maybe you fricking add an Atlas Master or do the jumble and Atlas Master stuff, like Mark was saying earlier, like as a league, and you know, just little stuff like that you can do that doesn't take too long to make it sort of worth playing again. But really, the main reason we want people to be playing again is so that they can test all the new balance and changes to kind of core systems that we're changing.
Whatever the league end up will be something that has the least amount of impact on the team doing the balance, right? So as long as we're not using their time to then not solve the things they need to solve, that will be a big thing. But you know, just things that are hard to even think about. If there is an economy reset, well, then we have to look at Runes of Elder, how it succeeded, how it failed, and integrate it into core. If it's fully successful, add an Atlas passive tree for it, you know, all of that stuff. So all of that will be happening around the same time, and
it sounds like it should just be an update to the existing expedition one, right?
Minus the 1.0 league, you know, it's like here's what our in-game is and what our in-game looks like, and you know, so we'll just
which is the other thing, right? Because who knows what random in-game changes we might then find we need after this is released, and then we have to make it. You know, we have to presumably any patch we do is going to involve improving that, whatever problems might end up being. Like it's just stuff like that we're going to have to do.
I had one quick follow-up to weave into this last question. So I'm going to keep it real short. You guys have done an excellent job in the past, you know, track record history of shaking up the meta with character balance changes on a consistent basis, where people are not just playing the new content, but we're playing the game in a different way very often from league to league to league. So the question then goes to the changes coming from 0.5 or between 0.5 and 1.0. Will they also include character power balance and meta shakeups?
Lots. Okay. That's one of the big focuses.
It's like 2/3 of what it will contain is that.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
That's the goal, right? It is 90% of the goal is, and because uniques are ultimately about this, is just how characters are built. Well, let's say 80%, whereas 20% is like improving the content more. So most of it is going to be more oriented around character builds, character powers, etc. But you know, and even to the degree of like, okay, you know, there are some skills that don't feel good to use. There are some, you know, so it's not just power, it's also feel. how these things feel to play. Are they rewarding to play? When I do A, B, C, D and do my combo piece, does it land or is it just like meh? So going back and revisiting even some of the effects and some of the audio, and obviously the numbers, whatever we can do to really just go and say everything we've now, or maybe it's like
everything should be as good as Bell.
There's an A and a B, but we need the C. You need the finale piece to it, and so we go and add that. So you have new skills, modified skills, changed both aesthetically, cosmetically, and in balance. Potential new classes, a whole bunch of new uniques, I'm hoping, with a bunch of uniques being rebalanced, all of this stuff across the board. Now, normally, when we have a big reveal, we don't talk about all this stuff because we like everything to be, new. But it's pretty easy to talk about all the things that we need to make better. And so that's really what we're going to do. And we'll just hopefully be able to get through it all. But how these things go. We don't stop development. So even though full release occurs, we're going to still then balance in 1.1 and 1.2 and 1.3. And, it's just never going to end. So if we don't get 100% right, we'll just keep going.
All right. So we're going to do a couple rapid fires here.
Lost TM's audio there.
Oh, how about now? Am I back? We good?
There we go.
All right. Yeah, sorry about
that. Never left.
I was typing in the chat to tell them to put their questions together, and I hit the mute button. Okay, so we're going to do rapid fire from the chat here, and then we're going to call it a day. So first one here, is there anything added to the game you guys would consider to be like aspirational content? Basically, they're saying extremely difficult content coming to the game like Uber's.
Yeah, 200% Delhi.
Look, everyone has their own definition of this, I assume, to some degree, right?
Sure.
Some people are just going to find the farmed pinnacles to be that. In terms of Ubers, we've specifically made sure to not. So you obviously have you have your quest version, your non-quest version. I didn't want a then Uber grade of that, and the reason is that, not to say it won't eventually happen, is that it puts a bit of a difficult skew on what is considered an acceptable character at a fundamental level, because now they have to be able to do the hardest content in order to be good. And with so much incomplete character balance and stuff we still need to work on and fill the gaps and everything, I wanted to make sure there wasn't just stuff that is like for the, the most OP of the OP of the OP builds, because it was, and this is something that it already was doing, where all of a sudden the viability of a character was being judged by some people against whether or not it can kill a pinnacle, some whether it can complete maps of certain tiers, and some where it can kill the Ubers, and it creates a bit of a difficult thing where it's like, what is considered acceptable? And so the new pinnacles are hard, like for sure. All the fights are pretty damn difficult, and as I said, you can generally juice these things and do there are ways via the Atlas Masters to take them to slightly next levels. There are things with the different leagues, with the different league trees, to both add rewards and make them harder in the form of multi-choices. And so there are ways to do it, but they wouldn't say they're classically defined as Ubers anymore. I wanted to get away from that. We'll get everything stable, we'll get everything good, and then we'll look at re-adding some of that stuff back. Be it either via an actual Uber fight or be it via, a master or something like that. We'll see.
Quick question about Recombinator was moved out of the game, so we're kind of curious about what's going on with that.
I kind of didn't like it, to be honest. Like it's always been in this annoying balance position where like the numbers that it has to be like,
yeah, I hate
to not be completely cracked and broken. Never been satisfying for the players, and we've never been able to somehow like get that right. So we just decided, you know what, screw it for now. We'll see. We'll
see
might
later,
revisit that again later if we can find some way to change it in some way. But yeah,
I think all the new runes we added, all of the runic ward, it's just so much better. It's so much more understandable, so much more broadly usable. Like not insanely overcomplicated. They're just better. So we were like, look, it had recombinating, it just doesn't need it. Like, here's all the stuff that we can do that is clearly better. I mean, at first, we kept it because there's like a little bit of a loss aversion thing, but it's like, okay, look, we're at like, do we really need it at this point? So ultimately, we just decided to axe it, noting that like everything we're adding in its stead is just significant upgrades IMO.
Okay. I'm assuming similar logic with like the expedition shops. They're still in the game, but they're kind of like not the primary focus.
They're gone. The expedition shops are dead.
Gone as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
they were basically just taken from PoE1, and like they never really were proper stuff. And
well,
yeah, we just
it was taken and then downgraded, and then kind of like, oh, we don't want it to be.
Expedition
It's
ship
just
gone.
not good. So again, it was like we
I didn't
did
like
with
the
like,
expedition ship.
let's get rid of the stuff
the
that's
shops,
just
didn't
clearly
like the rewards,
subpar
didn't
and
like any
replace
of
it
it.
with stuff that's just clearly better. Like we don't have to be so attached to it. And,
Good.
You know.
Sure. Okay. On to the next one here from chat. Corruption. So you guys made like a fairly significant change actually to corruption, where instead of it like randomizing it, it's like a multiplier, right? So you want to divine it first before you corruption. Would you like to speak to that change, Will?
Well, that is what we did. Yes. What was the goal there? I guess ultimately,
Mind sync.
Liked the idea that when you get I mean, I agree. I understand why some people are going to be like, no, I have to use divines now. Well, yep, that's what you got to do, right? You got to make it much more, a bit of a harder decision to decide, am I going to divine this item to be its perfect role and then do it, or am I not? And
but now you should always divine it to be its perfect role before you do it.
It's a bit more hardcore. It's a bit more Val. It's a bit more, costly.
That's good.
And generally speaking, I'm a fan of that, as opposed to just every time I find this, I just Val it no matter what.
The divines are more common anyway.
Which, I just think it's personally better, but I can see people not entirely agreeing with that, and you're right to that opinion, and too bad, I guess, is my answer. But I just 100% prefer it, and I'd say most of the people we spoke to definitely preferred it as well.
I've seen it overwhelmingly liked. I haven't really seen almost anybody say anything like
well,
this.
In that case, then win.
In previous interviews we've had, a conversation has been brought up multiple times, has been inflation and wanting a divine sync, and every time the comment has been, we need more uniques, we need more interesting uniques to divine orb, and I never really felt that it really did that job enough. And I think that with this change alone and continuously adding more uniques, you might actually hit the spot where this is doing exactly what we've been screaming for the past year.
Right.
Speaking of divines, one thing that came up was divine orbs are now more common, which was one of the patch notes. I mean, small line, big decision. So is that there to balance out like the changes of the Atlas, unless Quan, it's really not that more common, or what's that line mean?
It's definitely more common, divine orbs. I'm almost tempted to not mention the reason why we did that, but I don't know how you feel about that, Mark. Sure. All right.
Just do it. Do it.
Yeah. All right. So basically, okay. So this is going to sound ultra dumb, I suspect, to some people. So we'll see how this goes. But okay. So the temple, right? The temple had ridiculous amounts of loot going on due to snake strategy and all that sort of shit. So there was stuff like going that, right? So basically there's this concern that we had that people are going to be like, okay, so the temple is obviously nerfed, right? Like snake strategy, no longer a thing. Like, it means that like,
so then what we
believed was going to happen is immediately people are going to be like, oh, previous league I got X divines per hour and now I'm getting Y divines per hour, and like just annoying shit like that. And so we're like, if we just change the drop rate of divines, nobody will be able to make the comparison anymore. And there won't be like this ability to say like this thing about that. So now I just want to know I just want you to know, by the way,
everything's going to cost thousands of divines again,
guys. Legitimately thought we might do for a second is, what if we just remove divines from the game?
No,
that was like a legitimate troll answer that we had is like the opposite of this. But instead of doing that, we're like, okay, no, let's make them more common. They're not like, it's not like they're dropping like candy or anything, right? But they are like, they're an amount more common that is like such that that doesn't make them quite comparable anymore. And that's just down to the fact that divines, for whatever reason, are the thing that people use as the sort of way that comparing loot. So because the loot is kind of like there's a lot of changes all over to the loot everywhere, you're kind of
not sure how happy I am with that.
I guess it just makes the whole thing less comparable.
I get it. Yeah,
that is truly part of the reason why we did that. But yes, we do want to divine syncs as well, which is the whole thing. So yeah.
But things are going to be silly.
Well, I'll do one more here, and we'll call it right. 2 hours and like 35 minutes here. So just a real common one that keeps popping up is people are just asking about performance improvements. Like with every league, you guys typically do quite a bit of performance improvements. Are we expecting that going in 0.5? I know you talked a little bit about Steam Deck, for instance, but console, PC, all of it.
I wouldn't say that. I mean, look, there have been changes, but I wouldn't say that they're revolutionary to the point that I would call them out specifically as like we made big performance improvements. Like there's just the sort of usual iteration that we do. One of the big things that we've been really trying to fight has just been this annoying freaking driver device removed thing, which maybe people don't even know what that is, but like sometimes the game will freeze and then it reboots the graphic stuff and then it all comes back, like that thing. And like we haven't fixed it yet. We're still looking into it. It's just been like the engine team has been just banging their head against it for so long now. Like we're actually at the point now, by the way, where like Nvidia told us a couple of days ago, we want you to ship us, like air freight us a PC that reproduces this. Is like the thing. So now we're going to steal one of our PCs and send it to Nvidia to see if that will get the ability to work out what's going on. But like, yeah, there's been a lot of trying to sort out like this kind of stuff and like work on crashes and that kind of thing. So there's less like performance in the sense of like, frame rate higher. But we still will be doing more about that and like the O5X patches and that kind of thing.
Yeah, okay, you know what? I lied. One last kind of random question here, which I don't know if you have an answer for, but I'm going to try. Okay, I know Hex Blast was the skill people were using before. It got changed at one point. It really hasn't hit a point in which it's really seen much use. I know it was beloved by some people out there. I know you might not have the answer off the top of your head, but could we see some love for Hex Blacks or Fix or Revert or anything at some point? Like, where's your stance on that skill?
I have not thought about that one for a while, I have to admit. So it'd be one of those things that would look at an O5X timeline, I would say. Sure. Because, it's just, if it's not working and people aren't using it, then that'll be one of the things that we want to looking to buff, I suspect.
Okay, I'll just throw that there. All right, well, that's it.
Oh, go on. I was going to say the chaos hits and chaos dots just needs a whole bunch of love, and reviewing all the skills and the mechanics adjacent to it is just part of that. So, there'll be some adding skills, some changing of roles. So, like anything could happen, really, but it is on the radar for sure.
Okay. Well, there we go. We could go all day, but we're 2 hours and 40 minutes in. So I think we'll call it here, boys. I would say thanks for your time. You guys went really in depth on a lot of stuff, and I really enjoyed the.
Amazing. They have released a short about. Whoa, fuck that. Yeah, that's what I thought would happen. That's what I showed in my demo. This is what's going to happen to Val Temple. Sorry, yeah, that was really loud. Sorry, I didn't realize it was going to be that loud. That might be better. We got temple precursors. Sorry, Chris. Does that now. Rooms can be tier 4. What's a tier 4 room? What was that unique? Oh, it's one of those, right? That is bad, yeah. I had to put my temple up. There we go. Anyway, guys, it's just coming up to 1 in the morning for me. That was a really good interview. I'm probably gonna have to watch it back tomorrow to get the full feel. I think tomorrow evening, I think we're gonna write down what we're gonna do with the martial artist. I know we spoke about it for the first sort of hour tonight, but I think we're gonna write it down, see if there's any major changes, and to get that sorted. What I also might do is, because I've got 4 keys for Deep Rock Galactic Rogue Core, is I might wrangle Danny and Milk and someone else, and we might play Deep Rock Galactic Rogue Core and be really bad at FPS games together tomorrow instead, because, yeah. But anyway, been a pleasure. Wish you all a good night. See you tomorrow.